Chapter 41. Adam and Celine too. Stay down, boy. On the rooftop, Joshua tensed as Alice fumbled with her phone, fingers shaking slightly. "What are you doing?" he asked, watching her scroll through her contacts. Alice shoved the phone into his hands. "Take it. The password is Jazzus247. There's a contact named Grandpa. Call him. Tell him what's happening. He'll be here in minutes." Joshua frowned. "Why can't you call him yourself? You know him better than I do." Alice let out a dry chuckle and straightened her back. "Because I'm about to do something I never thought I would. Risk my life for someone else." She smiled, stepping toward the edge. "And trust me, the second Grandpa hears his grandkids are in trouble, he's going to ride the storm here." Then, in a flash of violet light, she was gone. Down below, Adam lay pinned to the cold concrete, dark tendrils coiling around his limbs, pressing him down with unrelenting force. He could break free easily, but before he could, someone else decided to play hero. A flicker of energy, a burst of motion. Alice materialized right in front of him, her arms crossed, a playful smirk tugging at her lips. "Hey, cousin." Adam raised a brow. "Cousin?" A few feet away, Celine sighed, already sensing where this was going. "Alice, kid, you shouldn't be here," she said, her voice sharp with warning. "And you definitely shouldn't be playing hero." Her expression darkened. Alice being here only meant one thing: Franklin Dark was coming. Alice cracked her knuckles. You know, hurting a member of the Dark family is basically a declaration of war. Celine's eyes gleamed. "Who do you think made that rule?" Before Alice could react, shadows exploded from Celine's feet, twisting into spear-like tendrils that shot straight toward her. Alice grinned, vanishing in a burst of violet light, teleporting out of harm's way with ease. Meanwhile,
Adam eyhalet.
things just got troublesome. He glanced at the tendrils restraining him. They were powerful, reinforced by Celine's control over darkness. But they had a flaw. They were connected to her. And that was all he needed. A soft hum filled the air as his neural cybernetic technopathy kicked in, his mind seamlessly linking with the electromagnetic pulses flickering through the battlefield. He could feel them, the microcurrents running through the environment, the nervous system of the digital world. He closed his eyes. Reprogram. A spark. A shift. And then his body vanished. The tendrils crushed down on nothing. Celine's eyes widened. "What?" A crackle of static behind her. Adam reappeared in a blur of motion, his body glitching back into existence as if he'd hacked reality itself. The moment he touched solid ground, his body shimmered, instantly adapting. The wounds from the bind? Already closing. Adaptive regeneration. Omniscient instinct kicked in next, his mind processing every movement in the fight, every possible outcome in real time. He didn't even need to think. His body simply knew what to do. Celine turned, but it was too late. Adam moved. In a fraction of a second, he was right in front of her, his fingers wrapped around one of the shadow tendrils. A single pulse of energy, and it shattered like glass. Celine clicked her tongue. "TCH. Of course." Adam rolled his shoulders, shaking off the last remnants of the restraint. His golden eyes gleamed under the city lights. "All right," he muttered, stretching his fingers. "Now this is getting interesting." Celine's fingers twitched. The moment Adam broke free, she already knew. This fight was about to get annoying. Fine. The shadows beneath her pulsed. In an instant, dozens of tendrils erupted from the ground, twisting and coiling like a storm of black serpents, each one aiming straight for Adam. Adam barely even blinked. The world around him slowed, data streams flowing through his mind like an open circuit. Neural cybernetic technopathy kicked in again, feeding him everything: Celine's movements, the electromagnetic signals pulsing through the area, even the way the air shifted with each attack. "Rewrite." A flick of his wrist, a silent command, and suddenly, the streetlights flickered. The city's grid bent to his will, sending an invisible wave of static crashing through the air. Celine's tendrils lunged. Adam vanished, glitching out of their path, reappearing mid-air above her. Celine's eyes snapped up. He's fast. A sharp whistle cut through the air. You gonna keep playing with shadows? Or are we actually fighting?
Adam taunted.
Celine smirked. Oh, you wanna fight? The next second, everything went dark. The streetlights cut out, the moon itself swallowed by the black abyss of her power. The shadows thickened, stretching unnaturally as if they had a life of their own. Adam landed smoothly on the ground, barely phased. His mind flickered through possibilities. The shadows weren't just covering the area. They were distorting it, creating an artificial void where light and sound struggled to exist. Smart, but not enough. His eyes gleamed as he tapped into the digital pulse of the environment. Find the weak point. His vision shifted, streams of data overlaid onto the darkness, highlighting disruptions in the electromagnetic field. There. The way the shadows moved, the subtle delay in their response. It meant Celine was still using her body as a conduit. Which meant Adam reached out. The moment his fingertips brushed the air, the streetlights exploded back to life, flickering like static before stabilizing. Celine flinched, and that was all Adam needed. He moved. His body blurred, glitching like corrupted data as he closed the distance between them in an instant. A sharp crackle of electricity followed as his fist shot forward. Celine barely dodged, twisting her body just in time. But she wasn't fast enough to completely avoid it. A shockwave burst from Adam's fist as it grazed her side, the energy rippling through the air and blasting apart the nearby pavement. Celine winced, flipping back onto a shadow-formed platform to regain her footing. All right? She exhaled, brushing off the hit. You're more annoying than I thought. Adam rolled his shoulders. Took you this long to figure that out? Celine didn't answer. Instead, she snapped her fingers. The ground collapsed. Adam's feet barely touched the pavement before it melted into a swirling void. The entire area became a massive sinkhole of shadows, pulling him in. For the first time, his smirk faded. Okay, that's actually a problem. His mind ran through scenarios, calculations firing at breakneck speed. The pull was unnatural, breaking the laws of gravity itself. There was no foothold, no structure to counterbalance against. Which meant neural override. He shut down his body's natural response to falling, his mind switching gears. Instead of resisting the pull, he synced with it. For a moment, his body became weightless, no resistance, no struggle. And then, he reprogrammed the fall itself. In the span of a millisecond, he bent the magnetic field around him, creating an opposing force that slingshot him sideways, right out of the trap. Celine's eyes widened as Adam shot out of the collapsing void like a bullet, twisting midair before landing smoothly on solid ground. He exhaled. Okay, he muttered, shaking off the residual energy. That was actually pretty good. Celine grinned. You're still standing. I'm just getting started. Adam smirked back. Yeah, so am I. The fight was nowhere near over. Chapter 42. Adam and Celine 3. The air crackled with tension. Adam and Celine stood apart, the battlefield shifting beneath them. Shadows writhing, electricity humming. Their powers clashed like storms waiting to collide. Adam's black eyes gleamed under the flickering city lights. His breathing was steady, controlled. Every nerve in his body was fine-tuned, ready to adapt. Celine, perched on her shifting platform of darkness, grinned. You're a tough one. I'll give you that. She cracked her knuckles. But I'm not done. Before Adam could move, the shadows around her surged, twisting into a massive tendril with serrated edges, swinging straight for him. He dodged, glitching sideways in a blur of motion. The tendril barely missed, carving through the concrete like butter. The ground trembled. Then, don't forget about me. A sudden burst of violet light. Alice blinked into existence at Adam's side, a confident smirk on her face. Celine's eyes narrowed. TCH, I was hoping you'd stay out of this. Alice grinned, flexing her fingers as space itself rippled around her. Yeah, well, I hate being ignored. She snapped her fingers, and the entire battlefield shifted. The buildings twisted, stretching outward as if pulled by invisible hands. The air warped, distorting into impossible angles. Streetlights bent, cars lifted off the ground, floating midair. The battlefield wasn't just a place anymore. It was hers. Space was now her playground. Celine's tendrils lashed out, but Alice barely moved. With a flick of her wrist, the shadows vanished, teleported across the city. Celine's brow furrowed. That's annoying.
Adam Simirket.
Neat trick. Alice shrugged. Perks of bending reality. Celine clicked her tongue. All right, you want a three-way fight? Fine. She stomped the ground. The darkness surged. Massive spikes erupted from the ground, each one twisting like living serpents, reaching for both Adam and Alice. Alice warped. 1 second she was in front of Adam, the next, she was above Celine, standing on thin air as if gravity didn't exist. Celine reacted instantly, her shadows snapping upward, but Alice was already moving. She folded space, teleporting inches away from Celine's face. Boo! Then she warped again, reappearing behind her, driving a knee toward her spine. Celine twisted, barely dodging. Adam took his chance. His mind flickered through possibilities. Predict, adapt, counter. His body glitched, vanishing and reappearing mid-motion, closing the distance between them in the blink of an eye. Celine felt the shift, but it was too late. Adam's fist connected. A shockwave erupted, sending Celine flying backward, her body crashing through the floating cars Alice had left in the air. She landed hard, rolling across the cracked pavement before flipping to her feet. She wiped her lip. Blood. Celine exhaled, a slow grin spreading across her face. Okay. She lifted her hands, the shadows behind her pulsing, growing, devouring everything in their path. Now I'm pissed. The entire street darkened. The streetlights flickered, then died completely. The only light left was the eerie glow of Adam's golden circuits flickering under his skin and the faint violet shimmer of Alice's warped space. Celine raised a hand. The shadows roared. Massive constructs formed. Hulking beasts with glowing red eyes. Towering figures made purely of darkness. Their bodies shifting like liquid. Adam didn't blink. Alice cracked her neck. Okay, that's cool. Celine smirked. I know. The shadow beasts charged. Adam and Alice moved. Everything exploded into chaos. Adam's instincts kicked in instantly. One of the shadow beasts lunged, a jagged maw snapping toward him. He twisted, dodging midair, his body glitching sideways to avoid the strike. His foot touched solid ground for a fraction of a second before he reprogrammed himself. A surge of magnetic energy crackled around him. His body flickered, shifting into a blur of pure speed. He warped forward, closing the gap between him and Celine in an instant. His fist was already mid-swing. Celine raised her arm, and a shadow barrier snapped up, absorbing the hit. The force sent her skidding backward, her feet grinding against the pavement. Alice, meanwhile, was everywhere. She blinked through the battlefield, teleporting between monsters, folding space, making the battlefield her own. One of the beasts swiped at her, only to hit nothing. She had teleported the attack away. Then she snapped her fingers. A rift opened beneath the creature, swallowing it whole. Gone. Another one lunged. Alice warped behind it, delivering a precise kick to the back of its head, sending it stumbling into Adam's range. Adam didn't hesitate. A pulse of energy erupted from his fingertips. Reprogram. The beast's form glitched, its body breaking apart as if corrupted by a virus. Then it collapsed into digital static. Celine gritted her teeth. Annoying. Very annoying. She threw her hands forward. The shadows responded instantly, collapsing inward like a black hole, pulling everything, Adam, Alice, even the floating debris, into a crushing void. Adam's eyes flashed. Neural override. His mind clicked through every possible escape route in milliseconds. Then, he hacked the battlefield itself. The gravitational pull flipped. Celine staggered. The shadows, instead of pulling inward, suddenly repelled outward, scattering into fragmented pieces. Alice didn't waste a second. She twisted space again, warping straight to Celine's back. But Celine was ready. A wave of darkness erupted, forcing Alice to teleport away before she could land a hit. Adam appeared on Celine's flank, aiming a kick to her ribs. She barely blocked in time, but the impact still sent her flying. She skidded across the battlefield, shadows cushioning her fall. She exhaled. Then she grinned. "You guys actually fight well together," she admitted, wiping her mouth. But the shadows behind her twisted, forming a massive blade, a weapon pulsing with sheer dark energy. "Let's see if you can keep up." Alice and Adam exchanged a glance. Then, at the same time, they both attacked. Alice warped first. She blinked forward, skipping through space like a stone over water, her movements unpredictable. 1 second she was above Celine, the next beside her, then behind, each shift seamless, each transition bending reality itself. Celine's massive shadow blade whistled through the air, slicing at nothing but echoes of where Alice had just been. Adam moved in tandem, his body flickering between positions like corrupted data. His golden circuits pulsed, energy crackling as he reprogrammed the physics around him. Every movement was calculated, precise. Celine snarled. "Enough!" She stomped the ground. The darkness erupted. A tidal wave of pure shadow exploded outward, engulfing the battlefield in a void of absolute black. Space itself trembled under her will. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound, no light, no ground. Just endless, suffocating darkness. Then, a golden flicker, a violet shimmer. Adam and Alice emerged, their bodies outlined against the abyss, their presence disrupting the void. Alice grinned. "Nice trick." Adam's black eyes gleamed. "Not good enough." Celine's grin widened. "We'll see." She swung. The shadow blade cleaved the air, its edge distorting reality itself. Alice twisted space, bending the attack away. The blade struck the side of a building instead, except the building wasn't there anymore. Alice had moved it. Celine barely had time to register the shift before Adam closed the distance. His palm crackled with energy. He struck. Celine twisted, shadows reinforcing her guard. The impact sent a shockwave rippling through the void, tearing through the darkness. Adam's other hand lashed out. Reprogram. The very fabric of the void glitched. Celine felt it, the warping of her own reality, the shifting of her own power. For a split second, her control faltered. Alice took her chance. She warped. She appeared inches from Celine, fingers crackling with raw, warped energy. She snapped. Space collapsed around Celine like an invisible vice, distorting gravity, twisting the battlefield to her will. Celine grimaced. Then she laughed. Dark tendrils erupted from her form, slamming outward. Alice warped away just in time, but the pressure forced her back. Celine stood, breathing hard, her shadows roiling around her like a living storm. Her golden eyes burned. "Okay," she exhaled, rolling her shoulders. "Now I'm really pissed." The shadows behind her coalesced. They didn't just grow. They changed. A monstrous form rose from the abyss, a towering entity of living darkness, its body shifting like liquid, its eyes burning crimson. Alice's grin faltered. Adam narrowed his eyes. Celine lifted a hand. The beast roared. The entire battlefield shook. Then it charged. Adam and Alice moved, and the battle truly began. Chapter 43. Adam and Celine 4. The instant the monstrous shadow beast charged, the battlefield twisted under its sheer presence. The air grew heavy, suffocating, as if reality itself was straining to contain Celine's power. Adam flickered out of sight before reappearing a few feet away, watching with sharp eyes. Alice, still smirking, felt her body tense against an unseen force. And then, boom! The beast moved faster than it should. A blur of darkness, its claw shot forward, a massive, jagged limb of pure void aiming straight for Alice. She warped, but something was off. Her teleportation staggered like space itself resisted her control. She only managed to shift a few feet before the beast's attack connected. Crack! The force sent her flying, smashing through the floating wreckage of a car. She barely caught herself mid-air, twisting to land on an invisible plane of warped gravity. What the hell? Alice barely had time to register before another attack came. Celine grinned, standing back with her arms crossed, eyes glowing gold. Something wrong. The beast was already on Alice. It lashed out again, its entire form rippling like an abyss come to life. Alice moved, warping in bursts, but her control wasn't the same. Celine had done something. Space around her felt distorted, sluggish. It wasn't that Alice couldn't teleport. It was that her warps were being overridden. The beast was right there. Too close. A massive tendril slammed into her gut, and the impact sent a shockwave through the air. Alice choked. The wind knocked out of her as she shot backward, slamming into a floating street lamp. The metal bent and shattered, sparks flying as she tumbled through the air. Her body ached. Even her organs felt like they had been crushed for a moment. Celine exhaled. That's 10%. Alice wiped blood from her lip, her expression darkening. Bitch! Adam, unfazed, finally moved. He appeared behind the beast in an instant.
No delay. No hesitation.
His golden circuits flared. Crack! A single blow to the creature's head sent a ripple through its entire form, its body flickering like a broken signal. Celine narrowed her eyes. Ha! Not bad. The beast turned, regenerating instantly, and swung at Adam with brutal force. He didn't dodge. He phased. The attack passed through him as his form glitched, pixels scattering before he reappeared behind the creature. He exhaled, flexing his fingers. This thing's annoying. Celine tilted her head. You're not struggling. Why?
Adam şuruk.
You're strong. But not against me. Celine smirked. We'll see. The beast roared and lunged again. This time, Adam met it head-on. A burst of raw power exploded between them, shaking the battlefield. Adam's body flickered, moving at speeds beyond human sight, landing strike after strike on the shadowy monstrosity. Each hit sent violent ripples through its form, but it kept regenerating, adapting, shifting. Alice, catching her breath, analyzed the fight. Celine wasn't controlling the beast like a puppet. She was the beast. Her power was flowing through it directly. And that meant, Alice grinned. All right, screw it. She warped. Not away. Straight at Celine. Celine's grin widened. Alice reappeared inches from her face, fist cocked back. But Celine didn't flinch. A shadow tendril burst from her back and impaled Alice straight through the stomach. Silence. Alice's eyes widened, blood dripping from her lips. Celine leaned in, voice a whisper. Too predictable. Then, she flung Alice off the tendril like a ragdoll. Alice crashed hard, rolling across the ground, barely able to move. Her body refused to respond. The pain was real. Celine cracked her neck. One down. Adam stopped. His golden circuits flared brighter, his gaze unreadable. Celine chuckled. What? Mel? Adam didn't answer, but the air around him shifted. Celine's smirk faltered. Something had changed.
Adam eyhalet.
And then, he moved, faster than before, faster than even Celine could react. Her eyes barely registered his form before. Crack! Her entire world spun. His fist connected with her stomach, and the impact warped the space around them. The ground beneath them cratered, the force blasting apart everything in 100-meter radius. Celine coughed, her body instinctively reinforcing itself with shadows. She tried to retaliate, but Adam was already gone. Not teleporting, not glitching, just moving. A blur of golden circuits. Celine barely blocked his next attack. But the force still sent her skidding, her boots carving trenches into the pavement. Her fingers twitched. Her body ached. She let out a slow breath. Then, she laughed. Low, amused. excited. She wiped her lip, golden blood smeared across her knuckles. Well, she exhaled, eyes blazing. Finally, her aura spiked. The battlefield trembled. The monster she had summoned collapsed back into her body, its form merging with her own. The shadows wrapped around her, shifting, evolving. Her fingers curled. She had only been playing before. But now, Celine grinned. The moment Celine grinned, the ground beneath her cracked. Shadow tendrils surged around her, twisting and writhing like living things. Her body pulsed with power, dark mist rolling off her shoulders, her golden eyes burning brighter. Adam's circuits flared in response. The air around him shimmered, warping with his sheer presence. He didn't speak. He just moved. Boom! He was in front of her in an instant, fist already coming down. Celine smirked. Her body shifted, melting into the shadows just before impact. Adam's strike shattered the ground where she had been, sending a shockwave rippling through the battlefield. Chunks of debris exploded upward, twisting midair from the force. Then, a clawed hand shot out of the darkness behind him. Adam twisted, dodging by a hair. But another tendril came from the side, and another from above. Celine was everywhere. Adam phased, his form flickering like static, avoiding each strike by the smallest margins. He darted through the incoming attacks, his body blurring in and out of reality. Celine's smirk widened. Not bad. Then she moved. A blur of black. 1 second she was in the shadows. The next, she was right in front of him. Crack. Her knee slammed into his ribs. The force sent Adam flying. He crashed through a floating bus, metal twisting and shattering around him before he flipped midair and landed on an invisible platform of energy. He exhaled, flexing his fingers. All right. Celine was already on him. She came from above this time, her fist coated in pure void. Adam dodged, only for the very air around him to twist unnaturally, dragging him back into the attack's path. Boom! The impact sent a shockwave through the entire battlefield. The force of the hit crushed the space beneath them, distorting everything for miles. Buildings in the distance trembled. The sky itself seemed to shudder. Adam hit the ground hard, skidding across the battlefield before flipping back onto his feet. A small trickle of blood dripped from his lip. Celine cracked her knuckles. What's wrong? You looked faster before. Adam rolled his neck. You talk too much. Then he vanished. Celine barely had time to blink before. Boom! A golden fist crashed into her jaw. Her head snapped to the side, but before she could recover, crack! Adam's foot slammed into her ribs, sending her flying. She twisted midair, tendrils shooting out to catch herself, but Adam was already there. Another punch. Then another. Each strike landed clean, each hit sending ripples through her body. The shadows around her tried to regenerate, but Adam wasn't giving her a chance. He was relentless. Every attack was precise, brutal, overwhelming. Then he moved again, faster than she could see. Boom! His elbow crashed down on her, sending her plummeting. The ground cracked on impact, the entire battlefield shaking as dust exploded into the air. Silence. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, Celine's laugh echoed through the dust. Slow, low, amused. The shadows around her churned violently. Then they exploded outward. The entire battlefield darkened. Celine stood, golden blood dripping from her lips, but her grin was wider than ever. Her body pulsed. The shadows around her condensed, folding into her skin, merging with her. Her golden eyes burned even brighter, the air itself twisting under her presence. Her power spiked, and then she disappeared. Adam barely tilted his head before. Boom! Her fist connected with his stomach. A split second later, crack! A backhand sent him flying. He barely recovered before. Boom! A shadow tendril wrapped around his leg and slammed him into the ground. Hard. The impact left a crater. Celine appeared above him, her foot already coming down. Adam's circuits flared. He phased. She stomped down and went straight through him. Her eyes widened. Then, boom! A golden fist met her face again. Selene skidded back, but her grin never faded. If anything, it grew. She wiped her lip, her golden blood glistening under the ruined sky. Then she raised her hand. The entire battlefield responded. Darkness surged. The shadows beneath them expanded unnaturally, swallowing everything in their path. The air turned heavy, vibrating with raw, uncontrollable energy.
Adam Yachet.
Unfazed. Selene's grin turned sharp. Round 2. Chapter 44. Adam and Selene 5 Final part. Adam cracked his neck, rolling his shoulders as his golden circuits pulsed brighter. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with something sharp. Yeah, he said simply. Round 2. Selene's grin widened.
Adam Eyhalet.
Stop holding back. Selene let out a breathy laugh, shaking her head. Nah. Her golden eyes glowed fiercely. If I do that, you'll die instantly. Adam blinked once. Then he smirked. Boom! They moved at the same time. The battlefield exploded under their combined force. The very air shattered, space distorting like glass under a hammer. Adam appeared first, his fist already swinging. But Selene twisted, narrowly dodging, her body melting into the shadows. She reappeared above him, tendrils bursting from her back, lashing out like spears. Adam blurred, shifting between reality like static, weaving through the strikes. One tendril nearly grazed him. Boom! His counter came in an instant. His palm struck the tendril midair, and the entire battlefield rippled as the impact force shattered everything around them. Selene barely landed before. Crack! Adam's knee drove into her stomach. Her body bent slightly from the hit, but she didn't fly back, because her hand was already gripping his wrist. Her golden eyes met his and she grinned. Boom! A shadow tendril slammed into his side, launching him across the battlefield. Adam flipped mid-air, skidding to a stop on an invisible energy platform. His golden circuits pulsed again, brighter this time. Selene wiped her mouth, licking off the golden blood. Then she disappeared. Boom! She was in front of him before the sound even registered. Her fist swung.
Adam Duket.
Her knee came up. He twisted, barely avoiding the strike. But before he could counter, boom! A wave of pure darkness erupted from Selene's body, swallowing everything. Adam vanished inside it. For a moment, silence. Then, crack! The darkness split open. A golden streak tore through the void, parting the shadows like a blade. Adam shot out, golden circuits burning like a second sun. His body flickered, shifting, moving faster than space could react. Selene barely raised her arms before. Boom! His fist crashed into her jaw. For the first time, her body flew. She twisted mid-air, catching herself on a floating piece of debris. Her head tilted, tongue running over her teeth. She spat out golden blood. Then she laughed. Adam exhaled, shaking out his hands. Better. Selene wiped her mouth, grinning like a lunatic. Yeah, she whispered. Then, the world shattered. Selene's aura surged, and reality cracked. The sky itself twisted, turning black, the battlefield stretching and warping under the sheer weight of her power. Adam's circuits flared in response, golden energy crackling around him like a living storm. Neither of them spoke. Then, they vanished. Boom! They clashed mid-air, shockwaves ripping through the battlefield. Every punch sent ripples through reality. Every impact distorted space itself. Selene's strikes carried the weight of shadows, the force of collapsing stars. Adam's movements shattered the very concept of time, his fists moving faster than causality. They weren't fighting anymore. They were tearing reality apart. Boom! A deafening voice tore through the battlefield, shaking the very air. High above, the sky split open with a crack of thunder. Lightning danced wildly, illuminating the figure that had appeared in the storm-filled night. Franklin hovered in the sky, hands clasped behind his back, eyes sharp as the storm itself. At that moment, he didn't look human. He looked like a god of thunder descending upon the earth. Enough! His voice alone sent a ripple through the battlefield. The lingering shadows twisted. The broken ground trembled. Even the air itself seemed to hold its breath. "Look around you," Franklin said, his gaze sweeping over the wreckage. "And you call yourself a family head? Getting riled up by a couple of kids." His words were aimed straight at Celine. She clicked her tongue, clearly annoyed, her golden eyes narrowing. She had been enjoying herself, soaring through battle with a worthy opponent, only to have it all ruined by this old man. Her glare was sharp enough to cut steel, but Franklin didn't so much as blink. Then he turned to Adam. Even though Celine hadn't been using her full power, the way Adam stood his ground against her, unshaken, relentless, made something stir in Franklin's chest.
Bride.
The boy had turned out well. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the battlefield in stark white. Franklin exhaled, his voice steady. "This fight is over." Celine scoffed, flipping her hair back as her golden eyes dimmed, returning to their usual dark shade. "And who the hell are you, old man?" she said, arms crossed, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Last I checked, you should be off somewhere in your family house, holding one of your boring meetings. Isn't that what you love doing?" Franklin's frown deepened. The sky growled with him. Crack! Lightning streaked across the heavens, bright and wild, as if the storm itself had taken offense. "Watch your mouth, girl," Franklin said, his voice sharp as the thunder that followed. "Just because we hold the same title doesn't mean you get to speak to me like that." The pressure in the air thickened. The storm rumbled, waiting. "Old man, shut up," Celine said, her voice dripping with impatience. Dark energy poured from her like a storm ready to break. "I just want my stuff back. I don't care if I have to burn this whole place down to get it." Franklin's jaw tightened as he met her glare. Then, slowly, he turned his gaze to his grandson.
Adam.
The boy he hadn't even known existed until a few hours ago. And now, here he was, caught in the middle of something far bigger than he should be. Franklin wanted to say something. Anything. But what? He had already failed his daughter. He had no idea what to say to her son. One wrong word and history could repeat itself. So he stayed silent. Celine smirked, tilting her head slightly. "What's wrong, old man? Cat got your tongue." Her voice was laced with amusement, but her eyes held nothing but cold indifference. "I know what you're afraid of, so just step aside and let me handle my business." She turned back to Adam, but he was gone. Her smirk vanished. Alice's furious voice shattered the silence. "You see what you've done, old man?" She spun toward Franklin, eyes blazing with anger and something deeper, hatred. Franklin's breath caught as he turned to where Adam had been. Nothing. Only empty space. Oh! Chapter 45. Adam and Alice. Groans filled the air as Alice and Joshua slowly regained consciousness. Their heads pounded, their bodies sore. Alice blinked, trying to focus. The room around her was unfamiliar. Dimly lit, old furniture. A faint chill in the air. "Good, you're finally awake," a voice muttered. She turned her head and saw Adam leaning against the window, rubbing his temples. His expression was one of pure exhaustion. "Paparazzi everywhere," he sighed. "Can't even get a moment to myself anymore." Joshua sat up, groggy and confused. "Where are we?" "My home," Adam said simply, pushing off the windowsill. "The place I was born and raised with my siblings. Things got messy last night, so I brought you two along when I left." Alice scanned the room again. There was something heavy in the air. Not just dust, but memories. The walls seemed to whisper stories of the past. Adam disappeared into the kitchen and returned a moment later, tossing a plate of food onto the small wooden table. "Eat." Joshua hesitated but then grabbed a piece, his stomach growling in protest. Alice, still wary, picked up her plate but didn't touch the food just yet. She looked up at Adam. "So what now?" Adam leaned back against the counter, arms crossed, eyes half-lidded with thought. Now? He exhaled slowly, looking out the window. Now you tell me what brought you there last night. Alice and Joshua exchanged a glance before putting on their best innocent faces, hoping to sway Adam. Adam wasn't buying it. Cut it out, he said flatly, arms crossed. I showed you that power display back there for a reason, to keep you from getting any dumb ideas about following me. Alice sighed, rubbing her temples. I thought it was going to be simple. Find the superhuman breaking the code, stop them from exposing our world to a normie, and be done with it. She leaned back, exhaling. I didn't expect you to be involved, or to be my cousin. And I definitely didn't expect the Blackvale family head to show up. Joshua, still groggy, raised an eyebrow. Wait, what? Alice avoided his gaze. After we wrap things up, I plan to take you to the Dark household to have your memory wiped. Joshua stiffened, his face twisting in shock. You were gonna mess with my head? Alter my memories? That's just standard procedure, Alice said matter-of-factly. The less you know, the safer you'd be. Joshua stared at her like she had just grown a second head. Are you serious? Adam watched their exchange in silence before shaking his head. Yeah, see? That's why I don't do family reunions. Alice shot him a glare, but Adam ignored it, pushing off the counter. He walked back toward the window, peering out into the night. His fingers drummed lightly against the glass. This place won't stay safe for long, he muttered. Celine's probably already moving. Alice's expression hardened. You think she'll come here?
Adam scoffed.
She's a predator, and I just stole from her. He turned back to them, eyes sharp. She will come. The room fell into silence. Joshua swallowed hard. So, what's the plan? Adam raised an eyebrow at Joshua's question. The plan? Simple. You go back to your normal life. I don't like the whole memory wipe thing, so I'll cut you some slack. Keep what you know, but stay out of our world. Live like every other normie, blissfully unaware. And if you don't, his eyes darkened. I'll erase it myself. Alice swallowed hard. Even she could feel the weight in his voice. Joshua flinched at first, but then something shifted in his expression. Resolve. He clenched his fists. I'm afraid I'm in too deep for that, Adam. I'm training to be a cop, and curiosity is kind of in the job description. If you're gonna be the good guy, and let me keep my memories but still expect me to walk away, I can't do that. He met Adam's gaze, unwavering. So I'm sticking around. Adam stared at him for a moment before breaking into laughter. You've got a death wish, kid. But I like that. His smirk widened. What you saw last night, that was just the surface. We're about to dive headfirst into the real supernatural world, and trust me, there's a lot more waiting for us. Alice's eye twitched. You're not seriously considering bringing him along?
Adam şuruk.
Yeah, I am. Besides, I'm pretty sure he was looking into something before he ran into me at that warehouse. Maybe I can help him out too. Joshua nodded, but Alice turned her glare on him. You do realize there are rules, right? A normie can't just know about the supernatural world. That's how it's always been. Joshua opened his mouth, but Adam cut in. His tone was sharper now, almost bitter. But the supernatural can know about us, right? They can look down on us like we're nothing. Like we're just insects crawling in the dirt. His hands curled into fists. That's exactly what a 15-year-old kid thought before he almost killed Arya. He saw her as lesser. Just another ant to crush. His voice was steady but laced with something raw. Silence filled the room. Adam exhaled, then looked Alice dead in the eye. One day, the human world and the supernatural world are gonna collide. Whether you like it or not. Alice hesitated, her fingers twitching at her side. She wanted to argue, to tell Adam he was making a mistake. But what was the point? This was a guy who could go toe-to-toe with a family head. If he had made up his mind, there was no stopping him. She exhaled sharply and crossed her arms. Fine. Do whatever you want. Adam didn't waste time. He stretched out his hand. Your phone. Alice narrowed her eyes. Why? He smirked. It's time to uncover everything about the supernatural world. Chapter 46. What are you planning? Anya kept her head down, her voice barely above a whisper. Mistress, we failed you again. We're sorry. Celine didn't respond, her piercing gaze making the air feel heavier. Drake swallowed hard. We didn't expect him to be that strong, even with his abilities sealed. It was like he was built different. Becca, standing a few feet away, didn't flinch under the tension. Instead, she stared at Celine with something close to amusement. You weren't planning to fight him, were you? Celine's smirk vanished. Her eyes snapped toward the source of the voice, but it wasn't Becca who had spoken. It was her. TCH. Celine clicked her tongue in annoyance. Alexandria, when are you going to stop this possession nonsense? She folded her arms, frowning at her daughter now occupying Becca's body. Drake and Anya stiffened the moment they realized, instantly bowing. They took a step back, giving Alexandria space. With a flick of her wrist, a throne of shadows formed behind her. She sat, legs crossed, eyes locked onto Celine. I like it this way. Anita's outlived her usefulness, so I wiped her memory and sent her off. Alexandria leaned forward slightly. But that's not why I'm here. Answer me. Why did you let him go so easily? That's not like you. Celine waved a dismissive hand, not even sparing Alexandria another glance. What I do is none of your business, child. I have no obligation to answer you. Alexandria chuckled, tilting her head as if she saw right through her mother. You want something from him, don't you? Her smirk deepened. You had your own plans, but when you saw him in the media, when you realized how powerful he was, you changed your mind. Now, instead of doing it alone, you're bringing him into your game. All that talk about killing him? Empty threats. Celine met her gaze but didn't respond immediately. Then, with a sigh, she shook her head. Think whatever you want. I'm not telling you a damn thing. Now, go back to your body and let poor Becca have control again. Alexandria closed her eyes, and when they reopened, it was like a switch had flipped. The confident smirk was gone, replaced by the dazed confusion of Becca. She blinked, adjusting to her surroundings. Celine exhaled sharply, her aura flaring for a moment. That insufferable girl. I swear one day, I'll rip that sharp tongue right out of her mouth. She turned to the three standing before her, her voice sharp and commanding. Get everything ready. I want all eyes on Adam everywhere he goes.
No mistakes.
Drake, Anya, and Becca, now fully herself, nodded and vanished to carry out her orders. Celine leaned back, her fingers tapping against her arm, a dark glint in her eyes. With him, my chances have increased. She glanced at the ceiling, almost as if she could see through it, beyond the stars. Don't worry, old friends. I'm coming. Unknown dimension. The air was thick with tension, the atmosphere heavy with an eerie stillness. A massive obsidian throne loomed at the center of a ruined temple, its jagged edges glowing faintly with crimson energy. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the cracked stone floor, flickering like they were alive. Before the throne, a towering black pole stood, thick iron chains wrapped tightly around it. Two figures were bound to those chains, their bodies slumped, clothes in tatters, stained with dirt and dried blood. Shackles dug into their wrists and ankles, the metal inscribed with glowing ancient runes that pulsed with a sickly red light, suppressing whatever strength they had left. A sea of spectators surrounded them, hundreds of figures clad in dark robes and twisted armor. Their eyes burned with contempt, their murmurs filled with disgust. Seated on the throne, a figure exuded raw fury. His presence alone was suffocating, a force that crushed the very space around him. He leaned forward slightly, his voice like thunder echoing through the crumbling temple. It has been years since I was cast into this wretched dimension. His words dripped with venom. And just when I finally found a way to escape, you had to ruin it. The prisoners barely stirred. Their heads hung low, their ragged breaths the only sign they were still alive. The figure on the throne scoffed. Pathetic. His fingers clenched the armrest of his throne, the very structure groaning under his grip. No matter. Your capture only ensures one thing: the others will come for you, unless they are the kind to abandon their own. Silence. Not a word from the two prisoners. The man let out a cold laugh, but there was no humor in it. So be it. Mark my words, your resistance is meaningless. Your struggle to keep me here is nothing but a desperate, futile act. Then, in an instant, his aura surged. A wave of dark energy erupted from him, expanding outward like a storm, swallowing the entire dimension in its terrifying grip. The very ground trembled, the temple walls groaning under the pressure. The sky, if it could even be called that, cracked like shattered glass, streaks of crimson lightning tearing through the void. All around, the onlookers dropped to their knees, bodies trembling in pure terror. I will be free. His voice echoed like a death sentence. And when I am, I will bring your world to ruins. Asterisk. Elsewhere. Alice hesitated for a second before sighing and tossing her phone to Adam. Don't break it, she muttered. Adam caught it with one hand, his smirk never fading. Relax, he said, flipping it over in his palm. I'm just gonna open a few doors. He closed his eyes, and the air around him shifted. A faint hum filled the room as an unseen energy pulsed from his fingertips into the device. The screen flickered, then glowed unnaturally bright as lines of code flooded across it faster than any normal system could process. Joshua leaned in. What exactly are you doing? Adam didn't answer immediately. His eyes snapped open, but now they glowed, a deep, unnatural blue. The lights in the room dimmed slightly as if something was drawing power from them. Then, all at once, the phone's screen stopped flashing and settled on an interface neither Alice nor Joshua had ever seen before. A web of interconnected signals stretched out across the city, displaying thousands of hidden networks, encrypted files, and supernatural archives. Darknet servers, encrypted communications, ancient databases hidden beneath layers of security. All of it now sat in the palm of Adam's hand. Alice's eyes widened. That's the entire supernatural network? Adam let out a small chuckle. Every hidden server, every protected database, every secure transmission line. Your phone was just a doorway. He twirled the device between his fingers. Now I have the whole damn system. Joshua stared in awe. That is insane. Alice, on the other hand, looked both impressed and horrified. You hacked into everything in seconds. How the hell? Technopathy, Adam cut in. I don't just hack. I connect. Technology is just another language, and I speak it better than anyone else. He swiped across the screen, and images flooded the air around them, holographic projections of classified documents, supernatural activity reports, names of high-ranking figures, locations of hidden strongholds. Alice's stomach dropped. This is way too much. If anyone finds out you did this, they won't. Adam's tone was calm, almost bored, as if none of this was a big deal to him. I left no trace.
No alarms, no warnings.
They won't even know I was here. Joshua, still staring at the floating projections, pointed at one in particular. That one, Celine's movements. Adam flicked his wrist, zooming in on the file. A list of recent activity appeared. Hidden meetings, communications, locations she had visited in the past week. Alice's breath caught. She's already mobilizing forces. Adam narrowed his eyes as he scanned through the information. She's pulling together resources. Something big is coming. Chapter 47. Who is the normie? Franklin's eyes burned with excitement, his voice brimming with admiration. You should have seen him, he said, almost breathless. The boy stood his ground against Celine, even though she wasn't using her full power. He reminded me of his mother. His hands clenched as if reliving the moment, his pride evident. Beside him, Madeline stood with arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Yeah, he's great, just like his mother, she muttered, barely masking her irritation. She had heard this over and over since Franklin returned. The constant praise for him. It gnawed at her, that creeping feeling from childhood resurfacing. The same feeling she had when her sister overshadowed her. And now it was happening with her own children. Franklin, oblivious to her thoughts, continued with enthusiasm. I have to bring them into the family. They already carry the name. It'll make things easier. His excitement was undeniable, as if the decision had already been made. Madeline scoffed, shaking her head. You think it'll be that simple? Her eyes narrowed. The president already announced to the world that they're her grandkids. That wasn't just some casual claim. She's staking her claim publicly. Franklin's enthusiasm wavered, but Madeline wasn't done. You really think she's letting go of them? They're her son's children. No matter what name they bear, their blood is Williams. And if you think for a second that woman is giving up control over them, you're delusional. The room fell into silence. The weight of reality pressed between them. Franklin's fists clenched, his jaw tightening. Then we'll just have to see who wants them more, he muttered. Madeline exhaled sharply, turning away. That's a fight you might not win. Madeline's words lingered in the air, thick with warning. Franklin stood rigid, his fists still clenched, his excitement dimming into something more calculating. His gaze flickered with determination, but Madeline had seen this before. Seen what happened when he set his sights on something. She turned slightly, eyeing him. You're not thinking of pulling something reckless, are you? Franklin let out a dry chuckle, running a hand through his hair. Come on, Maddie. You make it sound like I'm plotting a coup. Madeline didn't laugh. I know you, father. When you want something, you take it. But this isn't like before. This isn't just about bringing two kids into the family. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. This is about her. Franklin's jaw tensed. He knew exactly who she meant. The president of the Williams family doesn't make moves without thinking 5 steps ahead, Madeline continued. She didn't just claim them to make a sweet family reunion announcement. She's positioning them. And if you think you can just waltz in and snatch them away. I never said snatch, Franklin interrupted, his voice calm but firm. I said invite. He exhaled, rolling his shoulders. Look, I get it. You think I'm being reckless. But I'm not blind, Madeline. I know exactly who we're up against. And that's why I have to do this. Madeline scoffed, crossing her arms. You say that like they even want to be part of this family. You do realize they might not care about any of this, right? Franklin smiled, but it wasn't one of amusement. Oh, they will care. He turned away, heading toward the massive window overlooking the estate grounds. They just don't know it yet. Madeline watched him, a pit forming in her stomach. She had a bad feeling about this. A very bad feeling. Elsewhere, Tadia leaned back, eyes locked on the screen as the footage played. Adam was holding his own against the Blackvale Syndicate's elites and even Celine. Her brows lifted slightly. He's really strong for someone who just awakened, she murmured, watching the way he moved. Sharp, precise, like he'd been fighting for years. Then her gaze shifted. A new figure entered the fight, moving seamlessly alongside Adam, a member of the Dark household. Tadia's fingers tapped against the table as she narrowed her eyes. Ha! That's interesting. Did the old man send her? Or did she go on her own? Sarah, lounging on the couch with her arms crossed, barely looked up from her own screen. Nah, I don't think so, she said, scrolling through some notes. When Adam got there, she was already there. With some normie, too. Tadia's head tilted. A normie? Yeah. Apparently, Adam ran into the guy last night. And get this, he's Alice's friend. Tadia's lips curled into a smirk. Alice, huh? She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand as the fight continued playing on the screen. This just got a whole lot more interesting. Tadia's smirk lingered as she tapped a few buttons on her console, rewinding the footage. The screen flickered, replaying the moment Alice entered the battle. She wasn't just fighting. She was protecting the normie. That little detail didn't go unnoticed. She exhaled, her amusement deepening. Now, why would a Dark put herself in danger for some random guy? Sarah stretched her arms above her head, groaning. You're thinking too hard about this. Maybe they're just friends. Tadia shot her a look. Friends? Come on, Sarah. This isn't some high school drama. A dark doesn't step into a fight like that without a damn good reason. Sarah sighed. All right, fine. So what, you think she's acting on her own? Tadia leaned back, spinning her chair slightly. That, or someone wants her to be there. Sarah didn't reply immediately. Instead, she rewound the footage herself, slowing it down. Alice's movements were clean, but her body language? Tense, guarded, not just focused on the fight, but on keeping the normie safe. She's protecting him, Sarah realized aloud. Tadia nodded. Bingo! Sarah frowned. But why? Before Tadia could answer, a new voice cut in from the doorway. Maybe he's not just some normie. Both girls turned. A tall figure leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. His sharp golden eyes flickered toward the screen before meeting Tadia's. Tadia grinned. Well, didn't think you were paying attention, Silas. Silas ignored the teasing. He stepped forward, watching the footage replay again. A dark doesn't take risks for nothing. If Alice is protecting him, then he's important. The real question is, his gaze darkened. Who else knows? The room fell silent for a moment before Tadia chuckled. Guess we're about to find out. Chapter 48, The Ghost One. The atmosphere in the dean's office was tense. The flickering light from the holographic screen cast sharp shadows on the walls, but the real weight in the room came from the words just spoken. Dean Leonard Graves' sharp gray eyes narrowed as he leaned forward. His fingers laced together on his desk. What did you just say? Across from him, standing with a firm posture, was Victor Hayes, one of the Academy's most respected instructors. His dirty blonde hair was slightly disheveled, a sign that he had been dealing with this headache for a while. Two of our students, Alice Dark and Joshua Jeremiah, are off the grid, Victor repeated, his voice even. They're out there handling an unauthorized case. Dean Graves exhaled sharply, pinching the bridge of his nose. That troublesome brat, he muttered, his irritation palpable. Ever since Joshua stepped into this academy, he's been nothing but a thorn in our side. All because of his damn vendetta against the Reaper Mafia. His voice dripped with frustration. Now what the hell is he up to this time? Victor crossed his arms. Surprisingly, he's actually been successful.
Graves, Braus Furroved.
He's been taking down suspects tied to the Reaper Mafia and bringing in evidence, Victor continued. Not just that, he's been disrupting their operations, one after another. Efficient, clean, almost like he's done this before. The room went silent for a beat. The tension thickened. Dean Graves tapped his fingers against the desk, his expression unreadable. Then, with a slow, deep breath, he leaned back in his chair. So the brat isn't just causing trouble. He's winning. Victor nodded. Graves let out a low chuckle, shaking his head. Damn fool's got guts. I'll give him that. But then his expression darkened. Still, if he keeps this up, he's going to step on the wrong toes. And when that happens, his gray eyes glinted dangerously. The Academy might not be able to protect him. Victor let out a slow breath, his arms still crossed. You think he cares? His tone was laced with something between frustration and reluctant respect. If anything, knowing the danger would probably just make him push harder. Graves leaned back, staring up at the ceiling like he was searching for patience. That idiot's gonna get himself killed at this rate. The holographic screen flickered, switching to grainy security footage. Blurry figures darted through the shadows. Joshua and Alice, moving fast. The feed was choppy, but even in low resolution it was clear. They weren't just reckless kids playing hero. Joshua moved with precise, brutal efficiency, every strike calculated. Alice, by his side, was just as sharp, covering his blind spots like they'd been doing this for years. The camera feed cut out just as Joshua disarmed a man twice his size and drove him into the pavement. Victor's lips pressed into a thin line. That's not the movement of a regular cadet. Graves' fingers tapped against the desk.
No.
It's not. His voice was low, thoughtful. That boy, he's got experience. Real experience. Not the kind you get from training drills. Victor hesitated, then muttered, "You think he's been in this game before?" Graves didn't answer right away. He just stared at the blank screen, lost in thought. Then finally he exhaled. Doesn't matter where he learned it. What matters is what he does next. And right now he's forcing our hand. Victor scoffed. You mean you're actually considering backing him up? Graves' gray eyes flicked toward him, sharp as a blade. I didn't say that. He stood up, his heavy coat shifting as he walked toward the window. But ignoring him isn't an option anymore. Victor ran a hand through his hair, shaking his head. So what? We pull them back? Drag them back to the academy before they make more of a mess? Graves chuckled, low and dry. If only it were that easy. He turned, his gaze settling on Victor. Joshua Jeremiah isn't just another cadet. He's a wildfire. And right now, he's burning through the Reaper Mafia faster than we ever could. Victor frowned. You sound like you admire him. Graves smirked, but there was no humor in it. I admire a man who gets results. His eyes darkened. But even a wildfire has to be controlled before it burns everything down, including itself. A long silence stretched between them. Then the intercom crackled to life. Sir. A voice came through, urgent. We have a situation. Joshua and Alice. They just hit another Reaper Mafia stronghold. And this time, the voice hesitated. Graves' eyes narrowed. Spit it out. The reply was quick. This time, they weren't the only ones there. Someone else got involved. Victor straightened. Who? There was static on the line before the answer came. Reports say, it's him. Graves' expression hardened. Victor let out a low curse. The air in the office turned heavier. Graves exhaled, his jaw tightening. Get me a live feed. Now. The intercom cut off. The room was silent again, but only for a second. Because they both knew. Whoever he was, things were about to get a lot worse. The screen flickered to life again. Static crackling before a grainy live feed appeared. The angle was bad, tilted, shaky, but it was enough. A dark alley, dim neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement. Bodies lay scattered, groaning or unconscious. Alice stood to the side, catching her breath, her knuckles bruised. Joshua, a few steps ahead, had his back turned to the camera, his stance tense. And in front of him, a man stood in the middle of the carnage, completely still. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a long black coat that barely moved despite the wind. His face was hidden under the shadow of his hood, but the air around him felt heavy, oppressive. Graves' eyes narrowed. Zoom in. The feed sharpened, bringing more details into focus. The man's posture was relaxed, too relaxed, like none of this mattered. Victor tensed. Damn. Graves shot him a look. You recognize him? Victor exhaled sharply. Yeah. And if he's here, Joshua just walked into something way above his pay grade. On the screen, Joshua tilted his head slightly, studying the figure in front of him. Then slowly he cracked his knuckles. Alice looked between them. Josh, maybe we should. Too late. The man moved. The camera barely caught it. 1 second, he was standing still. The next, he was in front of Joshua, his arm already mid-swing. Joshua barely dodged, his body twisting just as a gust of wind blasted past him, shattering a streetlight behind him. Glass rained down. Alice stumbled back, eyes wide. Joshua didn't hesitate. He countered, his fist aiming straight for the man's ribs. But before it could land, boom! A shockwave erupted. The feed glitched, static breaking the image for a second before coming back. Joshua was on one knee, his boots skidding against the pavement. His sleeve was torn, blood trickling down his arm. The man hadn't even flinched. Victor clenched his jaw. That's not some regular hitman. That's a ghost. Graves' expression darkened. You think it's him? Victor didn't answer. He didn't have to. Back on the screen, Joshua wiped the blood from his mouth, then grinned. Okay, he muttered. You're interesting. The man finally spoke. Go home, kid. His voice was deep, low, like a growl beneath his breath. This isn't your fight. Joshua rolled his shoulder. Yeah, kind of feels like it is. The man sighed. Then, without warning, he vanished. Not moved, not blurred, just gone. The camera struggled to keep up and then, crash. The feed cut out. The room fell into dead silence. Graves exhaled, slow and measured. Send a retrieval team, he ordered. Now. Victor didn't move. His eyes stayed on the frozen screen, where the last thing captured was Joshua mid-dodge, a smirk on his bloodied face. Damn kid, Victor muttered. He's really gonna fight him, huh? Graves' expression was unreadable. If he survives. Chapter 49, The Ghost 2. Adam stood on the rooftop, hands in his pockets, watching the fight below with mild interest. His dark eyes tracked the movements, sharp and calculating. Ha! Who the hell is that? He muttered, tilting his head slightly. Joshua and Alice were locked in combat with some guy dressed in all black. Fast, too fast. But not superhuman. Just freakishly quick. Alice hadn't used her powers yet, which meant she didn't see him as that much of a threat. Adam exhaled through his nose. Guess I gotta step in. Without looking, he flicked his fingers toward the sky. Boom! A drone came crashing down instantly, sparks flying as it hit the pavement. No more live feed, no more interruptions. Then he moved. A blur of motion. One step off the rooftop, then a freefall. The wind howled past his ears, city lights blurring around him. Below, Joshua gritted his teeth, barely able to react as the man in black's fist came flying toward him. But before the punch could land, crack, Adam landed between them, his boot slamming into the pavement. The sheer force of impact sent a ripple through the ground, dust kicking up around him. His hand shot up, catching the incoming fist midair. Silence. The man in black froze, his arm locked in Adam's grip. The weight behind his punch, gone like it had hit a brick wall. Adam finally looked up, his grip tightening just enough to make a point.
Yeah, no.
That's not happening. Joshua blinked. Took your time.
Adam Simirket.
Had to make an entrance. The man in black yanked his arm back, twisting his wrist free from Adam's grip. He took a quick step back, his stance lowering slightly. His movements were sharp, controlled. This guy knew what he was doing. Adam just rolled his shoulders, cracking his neck. So, you got a name? Or we just calling you Fast Guy? The man in black tilted his head slightly. Ghost. His voice was low, almost amused. And you?
Adam Simirket. Adam.
Ghost didn't waste time. He lunged forward, faster than before, closing the gap between them in an instant. His fist shot toward Adam's face. Swoosh. Adam tilted his head at the last second, the punch barely grazing his cheek. Ghost followed up immediately, twisting into a spinning kick aimed at Adam's ribs. Adam caught the kick with one hand. Yeah, you're fast, he admitted, tilting his head. But not that fast. Before Ghost could react, Adam casually shoved his leg away, sending him skidding back. Ghost's boots scraped against the concrete as he regained his footing, his eyes narrowing slightly. Joshua whistled. Oof. He's playing with you, dude. Ghost didn't respond. Instead, he rushed in again, throwing a rapid barrage of punches, each one precise, aimed to overwhelm. His fists became a blur, each strike carrying enough force to rattle most people. But Adam? He weaved through them effortlessly, barely shifting his feet. Hands still in his pockets, he leaned left, right, ducked, sidestepped. Each attack missed by mere inches, his movements smooth like water. Ghost's frustration started to show. He twisted into another kick, this time aimed at Adam's head. Adam finally moved his hands. Smack. He caught the kick effortlessly, gripping Ghost's ankle with just 2 fingers. All right? Adam said, tilting his head. My turn. Before Ghost could react. Boom. Adam flicked his wrist, sending Ghost flying. The man in black shot backward like a bullet, slamming into a parked car with a sickening crunch. The metal caved in under the impact, the windows shattering instantly. Joshua let out a low whistle. Damn, you didn't even use both hands. Adam stretched his arms, exhaling. Didn't have to. The dust settled. The car groaned under the weight of the impact. Then, Ghost staggered out of the wreckage. His black clothes were torn, blood trickling from his lip. But his eyes, still sharp, still calculating. He wiped the blood away with the back of his hand, then let out a small chuckle. Heh, all right, that was impressive. Adam smirked, cracking his knuckles. I get that a lot. Ghost took a deep breath, rolling his shoulders. His stance shifted slightly. This time he wasn't holding back.
Adam grinledi.
Finally getting serious? Ghost exhaled. You could say that. Then he vanished. Joshua blinked. The hell? A sharp whoosh filled the air. Adam's grin widened. Now that's more like it. The air went dead silent. Then, whoosh, a blur shot toward Adam from the side. His eyes barely flicked in that direction before. Clang. A metal pipe exploded as Ghost's fist punched straight through it, missing Adam by a hair. The sheer speed of the attack sent a shockwave rippling through the alley, loose debris rattling across the pavement.
Adam whistlet.
Damn, that was actually kinda cool. Ghost didn't stop. The moment his punch missed, he twisted midair, rebounding off a nearby wall. His foot shot toward Adam's face, but Adam leaned back effortlessly, dodging with a smirk. Too slow. Ghost clicked his tongue. He was already moving again, his figure flickering in and out of sight. The air around them became thick with motion, blurs of black weaving between the shadows. Joshua squinted. Yo, is he teleporting? Nah, Adam muttered, eyes darting around. Fast. But not faster than me. His hand shot out. Bam! A fist collided with Ghost's stomach out of nowhere. The man in black gasped, the impact folding him in half as his body rocketed backward. Crash! He slammed into a dumpster with enough force to dent the metal, trash bags bursting into the air like a confetti explosion. Joshua winced. Oof, that's nasty. Ghost groaned, stumbling out of the wreckage, his breath ragged. His hoodie was shredded, exposing his bruised torso. Blood dripped down his chin, but his eyes still burned with intensity. You're insane, he muttered, coughing. Adam grinned, cracking his knuckles. You ain't the first to say that. Ghost wiped his mouth, taking a shaky breath. He was fast, skilled, and tough, but he wasn't winning this. He knew that. TCH. Then, in one swift motion, he pulled something from his pocket. A smoke bomb. PSSSH. A thick black cloud erupted around him, swallowing the alley in darkness. By the time the smoke cleared, he was gone. Joshua stared. Did he just Batman his way out of here? Adam shoved his hands back into his pockets, glancing around. He let out a low chuckle. Heh, smart guy. Alice, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke. We letting him go?
Adam eyhalet, streçin lazili.
For now. Then he turned, stepping past the wreckage like it was nothing. But if he comes back? His smirk widened. I'll really start trying. For now, we go after the big fish.
Chapter 50. Vincenzo Moretti.
The dimly lit room reeked of cigar smoke and expensive whiskey. At the head of a long table, a man in a sharp black suit leaned back in his chair, a thick cigar burning between his fingers. His gaze was sharp, calculating. This was Vincenzo Moretti, Don of the Reaper Mafia. His voice was calm but laced with irritation. Who the hell is screwing with our operations? Around him, powerful men sat in tense silence. These weren't small-time criminals, these were the big shots. The ones who ran the streets from the shadows. One of them, an older man with slicked-back hair, cleared his throat. It doesn't matter anymore. We've already hired the best assassin for the job. He smirked. Ghost. First super soldier ever created. There's nothing he can't handle. The room fell into a brief silence. Then, thud. Something heavy hit the floor. All eyes snapped toward the entrance. There, standing in the doorway, was Adam. A menacing smirk played on his lips as he casually adjusted his jacket. At his feet, the limp, unconscious body of Ghost. "Yeah, about that," Adam said, kicking the assassin's body forward. Ghost rolled across the floor, stopping just short of the table. Vincenzo's cigar slipped slightly between his fingers.
Adam çaklet.
"Found him on the way here. Figured I'd finish what we started." He took a step forward, the dim light casting shadows across his face. His eyes glowed with something dangerous. "See, the problem with your little super soldier." He tilted his head, voice dripping with amusement. "He was man-made." Adam cracked his knuckles. "I was born like this." Silence. No one dared to speak. The silence stretched. Thick, heavy. The only sound was the faint crackle of Vincenzo's cigar as he exhaled a slow stream of smoke. His expression was unreadable, but the way his fingers slightly twitched against the table? Yeah. He was pissed. One of the men shifted uncomfortably. Another reached for his gun under the table. Bang! Before he could even blink, Adam was in front of him, palm slamming down onto the weapon, pinning it to the table. The entire wooden surface cracked from the force. "Don't," Adam said, voice casual, but the warning was clear. The man swallowed hard, fingers twitching away from the gun. Vincenzo finally spoke. "You've got some balls, kid." He tapped the ash off his cigar, his expression cool despite the clear tension in the room. "Walking in here like this, throwing Ghost at my feet like garbage." Adam tilted his head. "You hire garbage, you get garbage results." A flicker of amusement crossed Vincenzo's face, but just as quickly it vanished. "You know, I should have you killed where you stand."
Adam grinledi.
"You could try." FWIP. A knife shot toward his head. Fast. Precise. But Adam barely moved. Clink. He caught it midair with 2 fingers, spinning it lazily before stabbing it into the table, right between the hand of the guy who threw it. The blade barely missed flesh, but the message was clear. The guy flinched, his breath hitching.
Adam simirket.
"Twitchy bunch, huh?" Vincenzo's expression darkened. His men were some of the most dangerous people alive. Assassins, ex-military, killers with blood on their hands. But right now, they looked hesitant. Because Adam wasn't just some reckless idiot. He was something else. Something worse. Vincenzo exhaled, eyes narrowing. "What do you want?" Adam pulled out a chair, spun it around, and sat, arms resting on the backrest, completely relaxed. "You," he grinned. "Out of my city." A low murmur spread through the room. Some of the men tensed. Others clenched their fists. Vincenzo just stared. Then he laughed. A deep, guttural chuckle that slowly filled the room. "Kid, do you have any idea who you're talking to?" Adam leaned forward slightly. "A dead man, unless you start packing." The laughter stopped. Vincenzo's jaw tightened. The room's energy shifted. Adam just sighed, standing up and cracking his neck. "All right, you guys clearly need a little encouragement." Then he moved. Boom! A single step and he was already behind one of the men. A fist slammed into the guy's gut, sending him flying into the wall like a ragdoll. The impact left a deep crater in the concrete. The next guy barely had time to react before Adam grabbed his wrist. Crack! A sharp snap. The man screamed, clutching his now broken arm before Adam kicked him straight into the table, flipping it over in the process. Chaos erupted. Guns were drawn. Knives flashed.
Adam grinledi.
"Now we're talking." Bang! Bang! Bullets fired. But Adam was already gone, moving faster than their eyes could track. He weaved through the gunfire, boots skidding across the floor as he twisted around a blade, catching another guy by the throat and slamming him headfirst into the ground. Another rushed in from behind.
Adam duket. Spoon.
Grabbed the guy by the collar and threw him across the room like a ragdoll. He crashed through a glass cabinet, shards flying everywhere. More bodies hit the floor, one by one, until silence. The room was wrecked. Half of Vincenzo's men lay unconscious, groaning in pain. The rest? Too scared to move. Adam dusted off his hands, looking down at Vincenzo, who was still in his chair, gripping his cigar so tightly it nearly snapped.
Adam Simirket.
Now then, you were saying? Vincenzo's eye twitched. His empire, his best men, destroyed in under a minute. He gritted his teeth. Then, slowly, he reached for his phone. Pulling out, he said, voice strained but resigned. Effective immediately.
Adam Greennet.
Smart choice. With that, he turned on his heel and strolled toward the exit, hands in his pockets. He paused at the door, glancing back over his shoulder. Next time you want to send a killer after me. He nudged Ghost's unconscious body with his foot. Pick someone better. Then he was gone. Or so they thought. Just as Vincenzo let out a shaky breath, Adam's voice rang out again, smooth and mocking. Oh, and one more thing. Vincenzo's blood ran cold. He turned his head slowly. Adam was still there, leaning against the doorframe, looking way too amused. I want you out of the city, he said, tilting his head. But someone else wants you in prison. Before anyone could react. Bang! The doors burst open. Armed officers flooded the room, weapons drawn, tactical gear, reinforcements, and at the front of them all, Joshua. A badge flashed under the dim light as he stepped forward, his expression unreadable. Vincenzo Moretti, he said, voice firm. You're under arrest. The entire room shifted. Some of the mafia members reached for their weapons. Don't, Joshua warned. Vincenzo clenched his jaw, eyes flickering between Adam and the officers. His empire was already in shambles, his men beaten to the ground. And now this? He exhaled sharply, tossing his cigar aside. TCH. The retrieval team that was supposed to get Joshua to safety earlier? They were here now, all right, just not in the way Vincenzo had hoped. Cuffs clicked around his wrists.
Adam Greennet.
Man, you should have seen your face. Joshua shot him a tired look.
Adam.
Adam raised his hands. All right, I'll stop. He took one last look at Vincenzo, who was being led away, his face twisted in pure rage.
Adam Simirket.
Welcome to your retirement, old man. With that, he turned on his heel and walked out, this time for real. Chapter 51. Joshua is now famous. The glow of a TV screen flickered against the walls, casting long shadows. Adam sat on the couch, legs stretched out, a soda can lazily balanced in his hand. The remote lay beside him, untouched. The news was on. Live news broadcast. The screen cut to a chaotic scene. Flashing red and blue lights, police officers swarming a high-end building. The unmistakable Reaper Mafia HQ. We're coming to you live outside the precinct where one of the most dangerous crime syndicates, the Reaper Mafia, has finally been taken down. The infamous Vincenzo Moretti, also known as Don Reaper, was arrested earlier tonight in a high-stakes police operation led by, get this, 2 cadets from the academy. A shot of Vincenzo being escorted out of a police van filled the screen. His face was hard, unreadable, but his eyes burned with pure rage. The press swarmed, flashing cameras in his face as officers pushed them back. Reporter, Don Moretti, do you have anything to say about your arrest? Vincenzo didn't answer, didn't even look at them. He just clenched his jaw as the cops dragged him into the precinct. Cut to inside the van earlier. The camera footage, probably taken from a cop's body cam, showed the inside of the armored vehicle. Several other high-ranking members of the Reaper Mafia sat cuffed beside Vincenzo. There was Lorenzo the Blade Romano, his second-in-command. A cold-blooded killer with a scar running from his eyebrow to his chin. He sat there, silent, arms crossed, like he was already planning his escape. Next to him, Marco the Rat Lucchese, their information broker. Unlike Lorenzo, he was sweating bullets, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. Then there was Big Sal, the enforcer, built like a tank. He glared at the officers across from him, but he wasn't dumb enough to try anything. Back to the news anchor in the studio. This is one of the biggest busts in recent history, folks. The Reaper Mafia has been an untouchable force for years, operating in the shadows with absolute control. But tonight, it all came crashing down. Adam took a sip of his soda, watching lazily. Then the screen switched. A new segment. The headline, Heroic Cadets Bring Down Crime Syndicate. A split screen showed two people, Joshua and Alice, standing in front of a line of officers at the academy. Joshua looked uncomfortable. He was in uniform, standing stiff, hands behind his back. Alice, standing beside him, was a little more relaxed but still serious. Two cadets, yes, cadets, played a crucial role in tonight's operation. Joshua and Alice, both academy students, worked alongside authorities to bring down the infamous Reaper Mafia. Their bravery and intelligence in the field have not gone unnoticed. Cut to a government official stepping up to a podium. Due to their outstanding contributions, we will be awarding both Joshua and Alice with honorary medals for their service. It's rare to see cadets pull off something of this scale, and they've set a new standard for what it means to serve justice. The reporters erupted with questions. Joshua, Alice, how does it feel to take down the biggest mafia in the city? Joshua just sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I was just doing my job. Alice smirked, nudging him. He means, yeah, it was badass. Laughter from the crowd. The officials weren't as amused. Adam chuckled from his couch. Back to the studio. The anchor wrapped up, flashing a bright smile. We'll be following this case closely, but for now, one thing is clear, the reign of the Reaper Mafia is over. And we have two young cadets to thank for that. The news faded out, switching to a commercial. Adam clicked the TV off. Silence. He leaned back, resting his head on the couch. His fingers drummed against his soda can. Then, a smirk. He exhaled through his nose, shaking his head. Cadets working alongside the authorities. Bunch of liars. He took another sip, eyes glinting in the dim light. Elsewhere, a single candle flickered on an ornate table, casting long shadows across the lavish yet eerie room. The air smelled of aged parchment and something faintly metallic. Celine lounged in a high-back chair, one leg crossed over the other, fingers lightly tapping against the armrest. Her golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Across from her, Anya stood, her expression calm but her tone carrying a hint of amusement. So, those fools actually got themselves arrested. Celine let out a quiet chuckle, twirling a silver ring around her finger. How predictable.
Onyonoidid.
From what I gathered, that boy who was with Alice, the one we ran into, was the mastermind behind the whole operation. But let's be real, someone like him couldn't have pulled this off alone. Celine arched a brow.
Onyoshmirked.
And here's the interesting part. Ghost showed up. That got Celine's attention. She leaned forward slightly. Ghost? That knockoff superhuman? Ha! Her amusement faded, her expression turning sharp. Which means Alice or Adam had a hand in this. Silence filled the room for a moment. Then, Celine's smirk returned. But this time, there was something dangerous behind it. A normie messing with our world. Now, that should be an offense in the eyes of those Viridian bastards. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing. And you know what that means? Anya's lips curled into a knowing smile. They'll be going after Adam. Celine's smirk vanished instantly. Her fingers stopped tapping. That, she muttered, would be a problem. She stood up in one smooth motion, her cloak billowing slightly as she turned to face Anya directly. We don't have time to waste. Get in touch with Thomas. Anya raised a brow. It's time. Celine's gaze darkened. Yes, we bring the plan to fruition now. She took a slow breath, composing herself before adding, and since Adam has the last piece, things just got a lot more easier. A wicked grin crossed her lips. Once he knows the truth, he won't have a choice but to join us. Chapter 52. The Truth One. A cold breeze drifted through the quiet neighborhood, rustling the leaves on the pavement. The glow of the streetlight flickered slightly, casting long shadows. Thomas stood beside Celine, his hands in his coat pockets, staring at the house in front of them. His expression was unreadable, but there was tension in his voice. "You're really going through with this?" Celine didn't look at him. Her golden eyes remained locked on the house, her lips curling into a faint smile. "Of course, the sooner the better." She exhaled softly, her voice carrying a hint of something regretful. "Your mentor has been trapped in that cursed dimension for 5 years now. I think we owe them an apology for making them wait this long." Thomas glanced at her, catching that rare moment of reminiscence in her eyes. Celine's expression hardened. "Besides, your people will be coming after Adam soon. Letting a normie in on the supernatural world? That's a violation in their eyes." Thomas scoffed, shaking his head. "They won't be too hard on him. He's new to all this himself. Probably get a slap on the wrist." Celine smirked. "Maybe, but that doesn't change the fact that they're watching him." Thomas leaned back against a lamppost, crossing his arms. "They're also keeping an eye on that Joshua kid. Probably think he's tied to the supernatural too, just because Alice is protecting him." Celine raised an eyebrow. "And?" Thomas let out a small laugh. "And I think it's got nothing to do with the supernatural. She just has a massive crush on him and won't let anything happen to him." Celine chuckled. "That would be amusing." Thomas shrugged. "Either way, before they even get to that point, they'll think twice before making a move on Adam." Celine finally turned to him, her smirk widening. "Then let's make sure they don't get the chance." The streetlight flickered again, casting their shadows against the pavement before plunging the street into brief darkness. Thomas exhaled, running a hand through his hair before turning to Celine. "Okay, but seriously, why is she here? I thought you didn't want to drag anyone else into this. You said it'd be too dangerous." Celine didn't even flinch. Her gaze remained steady on the girl standing a few steps ahead, eyes locked onto the house. A mix of pride and concern flickered in her expression. "She's not a kid anymore. She can handle herself." Thomas let out a small sigh, glancing at Alexandria. "I know. She's one of the rare few who awakened 2 superpowers." His voice carried a hint of respect. Celine smirked. "That's rich, coming from you, Mr. Prideful. But even with all that, she's still a step behind that Ashbourne girl. 5 awakened superpowers, all at SSS rank." Thomas scoffed. "Yeah, well, that girl's practically the heavens' favorite. Some people are just built different." A sharp voice cut through their conversation. "Are we just gonna stand here all night?" Alexandria asked, turning to face them with a frown. "Or are we actually going inside?" The wind picked up slightly, rustling the leaves around their feet. Celine chuckled, impatient as ever. Thomas sighed, cracking his knuckles. "All right, let's do this." Without another word, they stepped forward, the weight of the night pressing down on them. The quiet hum of the streetlight buzzed above them as Thomas, Celine, and Alexandria stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked beneath their feet, the sound barely noticeable over the rustling wind. Celine raised a hand and knocked 3 slow, deliberate taps. For a moment, there was nothing, just silence. Then the door cracked open. Joshua stood there, his expression shifting from confusion to immediate tension as his eyes landed on Celine. His grip on the doorknob tightened instinctively, his body tensing as if his instincts screamed at him to move. Celine tilted her head slightly, her golden eyes gleaming under the dim light. A small, unreadable smile played on her lips. "Well, aren't you going to invite us in?" Joshua didn't answer. Instead, he took a step back, then another. His breathing hitched slightly, but he caught himself. His eyes flicked behind him, searching. Celine followed his gaze. Her smirk widened. There, at the end of the dimly lit hallway, stood Adam. He leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed, his eyes locked onto them. Beside him, Alice tensed slightly, her fingers twitching at her sides as if ready to react at any moment. "Well," Celine exhaled, stepping forward but not crossing the threshold. "That makes things easier." Her voice was smooth, but there was an unmistakable weight to it. "I was just about to ask where he was." Joshua swallowed, glancing back at Adam. Adam didn't say a word. His gaze flickered to Celine, then to Alexandria and Thomas, taking in their presence. His expression remained unreadable, but there was something sharp in his eyes. Alice shifted slightly, stepping forward just enough to place herself in front of Adam. Subtly, but noticeable. Her lips pressed together in a thin line, her stance guarded. Thomas sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Well, this is awkward. Celine chuckled. Oh, don't be like that. She then turned her full attention to Adam, her expression calm but firm. We need to talk. A heavy silence filled the space between them. The tension was thick enough to cut with a blade. Adam finally uncrossed his arms, his voice quiet but steady. About what? Celine's eyes gleamed. The truth. Joshua felt a chill run down his spine. Alice's fingers twitched again. And for a split second, Adam's expression darkened. The air in the room felt heavy. Not physically, but in that unspoken way where everyone knew something was about to happen. The kind of moment where a single wrong move could flip the entire situation on its head. Adam's eyes didn't leave Celine. His posture was relaxed, but that sharp look in his gaze? That was anything but casual. Celine took a step forward, just enough to make Joshua shift uncomfortably but not enough to push past the doorway. Her golden eyes gleamed in the dim light. Relax, she said smoothly. If I wanted to start something, I wouldn't have knocked. Joshua swallowed hard, his grip on the doorknob tightening. He wasn't sure what it was about her, but something screamed at him that she wasn't someone to mess with. Alice, though? She wasn't having any of it. She stepped forward, just slightly, putting herself between Adam and Celine. You have a lot of nerve showing up here like this, she muttered, her voice steady but cold. Celine smirked, tilting her head. I like you, Alice. You've got bite. She glanced briefly at Adam before locking eyes with Alice again. But you're not the one I came to see. Alice didn't budge. Doesn't matter. You don't just walk in here and start acting like you own the place. Technically, we're still outside, Thomas chimed in lazily from behind Celine, shoving his hands into his pockets. His tone was casual, but his eyes flickered between Adam and Alice, reading the tension. Adam exhaled slowly, then finally spoke. All right. His voice was calm, but there was weight to it. Say what you came to say. I'm here to tell you the truth about your parents. Chapter 53. Damien Blackvale. 5 years ago, a massive stone doorway loomed before them, carved into the very fabric of reality itself. Towering and ancient, its surface was covered in intricate markings, spirals, runes, and symbols that pulsed faintly, as if alive. The edges shimmered subtly, warping the air around them, hinting at something unnatural beyond. Thomas stood before it, arms crossed, his sharp eyes scanning every inch. He let out a low whistle. So this is the mysterious doorway you were talking about, a portal to another dimension. Huh. Beside him, a man with piercing red eyes and messy black hair stood with his hands in his coat pockets. Damien Blackvale, older brother of Celine and the current head of the Blackvale Syndicate. Even younger, his presence was intense, radiating quiet authority. His tailored black coat barely concealed the weapons strapped underneath, a constant reminder of who he was. Yeah, Damien muttered, his eyes never leaving the doorway. We've studied everything about it, spent years trying to figure it out, but nothing. No records, no history, no way to open it. He exhaled, frustration flickering across his face. The damn thing just appeared out of nowhere one day. Celine, standing between them, her long dark hair tied back in a simple ponytail, nodded. That's why we called you. With your ability, intuitive aptitude, we believe you can see what we can't. Thomas smirked, his confidence barely contained. Of course you couldn't figure it out. Your minds are way too feeble for this kind of thing. Damien's eye twitched. His fingers curled slightly, but before he could react, Celine touched his arm, shaking her head. A silent warning. Not now. Not here. Damien exhaled through his nose, forcing himself to stay still. Thomas, unfazed, turned back to the markings, his smirk widening. Now, let's see what secrets you're hiding. Thomas took a step closer, running his fingers along the ancient carvings. The markings were rough to the touch, but there was something beneath the surface. A pulse, a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. His eyes narrowed. Interesting. Celine watched, arms crossed. Damien, however, kept his gaze locked on Thomas, his patience wearing thin. Are you going to do something? Or are you just going to keep feeling it up? Damien muttered. Thomas grinned. Relax, red eyes. These things take time. Before Damien could retort, Thomas's expression shifted. His smirk faded, replaced by something more serious. His fingers twitched against the stone. Then his pupils dilated. The world around him blurred. The air grew thick, charged with an unseen force. For a brief second, everything went silent. Then, thump, a deep, resonating sound echoed from the doorway. Dust trickled from the carvings as the symbols pulsed, their glow intensifying. The very ground beneath them trembled slightly. Celine's eyes widened. What the? Damien's hand instinctively went to his weapon. What did you just do? Thomas slowly pulled his hand back, flexing his fingers as if they'd gone numb. His expression was unreadable. I didn't do anything. Another pulse. The markings shone even brighter now, their glow taking on a fiery hue. Then, crack. A jagged fracture formed at the center of the doorway. The air around them twisted violently, distorting like a heat wave. The atmosphere turned heavy, pressing down on them like an unseen force. Celine took a step back. This thing is waking up. Damien's grip tightened on his weapon. Then we need to decide right now. His eyes flicked to Thomas. Are we stepping through, or sealing it for good? Thomas stared at the growing fracture, his expression unreadable. That's the thing, red eyes. I don't think we can seal it anymore. The crack in the doorway spread like lightning across the stone, the glow seeping through the fractures like molten lava. The pulse from before turned into a steady, rhythmic thud, like a giant heartbeat hammering against the walls of reality. Then, boom! A shockwave exploded from the doorway, sending dust and debris flying. Thomas stumbled back, shielding his face. Celine's hair whipped wildly in the wind, and Damien had to brace himself, boots skidding slightly on the stone floor. Then the glow flooded out. The doorway burst open, not like a regular door, but like a wound tearing through the fabric of space. A swirling, endless void stretched before them, shifting and rippling with colors that shouldn't exist. The air turned ice cold, yet Damien swore he could feel heat licking at his skin at the same time. Celine gasped. This isn't normal. Damien's hand gripped his weapon tighter.
No shit.
For a second, none of them moved. The unnatural force from the portal pressed down on them, making it hard to breathe. Then Thomas chuckled. Well, isn't this exciting? Damien snapped his head toward him. Exciting? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? That thing is. Before he could finish, the void moved. A shape stirred within the swirling chaos, shifting, stretching, watching. A slow, guttural sound rumbled from beyond the threshold. Not a roar, not a growl. Something ancient, something that had been waiting. And then, a hand. A twisted, unnatural limb, dark, elongated fingers stretching out from the abyss, clawing at the edges of the portal. The mere presence of it sent a crushing wave of pressure through the air, making Celine stagger back. Tsage, damn it! Damien spat, snapping his fingers. The moment he did, his coat flickered as a blade materialized in his grip, its surface glowing red-hot with energy. We're closing this. Now. Thomas, however, didn't seem alarmed. He was grinning. Oh no, 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 why would we close it? His eyes gleamed with fascination. We just opened the door. Wouldn't it be a waste not to see what's on the other side? Damien turned on him. Are you insane? Look at that thing. You want to jump in and shake hands with it? Thomas just tilted his head, stepping closer to the portal. Who's to say it's dangerous? Maybe it's just curious. Crack. The hand clenched the edge of the portal, pulling itself forward. More of its form began to emerge. Something massive, shifting, wrong. Celine's voice was sharp. Thomas, get back. But he didn't move. He was locked in place, eyes wide, as if entranced. The being from beyond let out a low, chilling breath. And in that moment, it spoke. Not in words, not in sound, but in raw, unfiltered thought that slammed into their minds like a tidal wave. A single message. Come. The portal lurched, the force pulling at them like gravity itself had shifted. Celine staggered. Damn! It's pulling us in. Damien dug his heels into the ground, slashing his blade toward the portal. Enough of this nonsense. A red arc of energy lashed out, aiming to sever the connection. But the moment his attack hit the swirling void, it swallowed the energy whole. No impact, no resistance, like it never existed. Damien's eyes widened. What? And then, before anyone could react, the force tripled. The world spun, the pressure surged, and in the blink of an eye, the portal devoured them whole. Then, nothing. Chapter 54. The Power Couple 1. The air was thick, heavy, unnatural. Celine's boots crunched against the cracked stone beneath her as she took a slow step forward, scanning their surroundings. The sky above them was a swirling mass of dark clouds, shifting like something alive. The ground was barren, littered with ruins. Broken pillars, shattered statues, remnants of a temple that must have once stood proud, but was now nothing more than a decayed corpse of the past. Her voice came out uneasy. Where are we? Thomas exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. His head was pounding, like a lingering hangover from something he couldn't remember. He swallowed, trying to shake the feeling crawling under his skin. No idea, but I got a bad feeling about this place. Like, he hesitated, his fingers twitching. Like we're not supposed to be here. Like we shouldn't have opened that damn door. Damien let out a dry laugh, one with absolutely no humor in it. Oh, you think? He shot Thomas a sharp glare. You were the one who refused to listen and just had to go charging in like an idiot. Thomas ran a hand through his hair, frustration flickering across his face. Yeah, well, I wasn't exactly in control of myself, was I? He shivered slightly, remembering that moment. How his body had moved on its own, how something had called to him. Celine tensed. Guys! They both turned to her, then followed her gaze. Up ahead, past the ruins, was what was left of an ancient temple. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was the figures standing within its shadows. Silent, still, watching. Dozens of them, maybe more. Their eyes, if they even had eyes, gleamed faintly, locked onto the trio like predators sizing up their prey. That's not good. Damien's fingers curled around his weapon. But then he noticed something else. They weren't looking at them. They were looking behind them. A chill ran down his spine. Slowly, hesitantly, he turned around. The others followed. And there it was. Portal. The same one that had pulled them in. Only now it was stable. Fully formed. Swirling in eerie silence. Thomas felt his breath hitch. His gut twisted. Oh, I don't like this. Celine's heart pounded. It was too obvious now. The figures weren't looking at them. They were looking at the exit. And that's when the realization hit. This place, Thomas murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. It's a prison. A low, guttural growl rumbled from the shadows. Then movement. The figures lurking within the ruins stepped forward, slow and deliberate. Their forms were humanoid, but something was wrong. Their limbs were too long, their movements unnatural, jerky, like puppets on invisible strings, and their eyes empty, glowing slits, locked onto the portal with hunger. Damn, Damien muttered, instinctively reaching for his weapon. They're making a move. Then one of them lunged. Like a blur of darkness, it sprinted straight for the portal. But that was just the beginning. The others saw it, saw the way out. And now they were all moving. a stampede of shadows, rushing for the gate. "We can't let them through," Celine shouted, drawing her twin daggers. Damien was already in motion. In one swift move, he pulled out his sword, midnight black steel flashing under the eerie glow. "TCH. Damn prisoners." He exhaled sharply. "You're staying right here." The first wave reached them. Celine ducked low, her blades slicing clean through the tendrils of a lunging creature. Its body convulsed before it dissolved into wisps of darkness. Damien swung wide, his blade carving through three at once, sending black ichor splattering onto the ground. Thomas moved like lightning, dodging, weaving, striking with precision, his energy crackling through the air with each hit. But there were too many. The creatures kept coming, relentless, desperate, and the portal still wide open. Celine gritted her teeth. "This isn't working. We need backup," she called out, flipping back as a clawed hand slashed past her face. Without hesitation, she raised her wrist, activating the small device strapped around it. The faint blue light blinked once, twice, then a pulse. The emergency signal had been sent. Somewhere out there, Raph and Freya would receive it. "That better have been an SOS," Thomas said, his eyes flicking toward her as he blasted another creature back. "It was," Celine confirmed. Damien smirked, driving his sword into the ground, sending a shockwave of dark energy rippling outward. "Good," Thomas exhaled, cracking his knuckles, "because I can feel something strong nearby, and I don't think it's friendly." Celine's stomach dropped. As if on cue, a chilling presence filled the air. A deep, echoing click-click-click sounded from within the ruins. Elsewhere, the evening sky burned in shades of gold and crimson as laughter echoed through the air. Adam, just 14, darted across the grassy yard, his movements quick and effortless as he dodged and weaved between his two younger siblings, Alfred and Arya, both barely 3. They giggled as they chased after him, their tiny legs struggling to keep up. "Adam, get back here. Stop running around." Freya's voice rang out, firm yet gentle. She stood at the porch, hands on her hips, watching her son with a mix of amusement and exasperation. Adam skidded to a stop, turning to face her with a pout. "But we're having fun," Freya sighed, shaking her head before walking toward them. She crouched, brushing Arya's messy hair back into place while Alfred clung to her leg. "Come on," she said with a warm smile. "Let's go have dinner. Your father is waiting." Adam's ears perked up at that. His siblings, too. Without hesitation, all 3 bolted toward the house, their excitement clear as they rushed inside. Freya chuckled softly, watching them disappear through the doorway. Then her smile faded. Something flickered in the sky. A faint blue light. Freya's breath hitched. One of Raphael's signals. A tool crafted by him, designed to reach him no matter where he was. And seeing one now could only mean one thing. Trouble. She turned, ready to act. But she didn't have to. Raphael was already there. He stood just outside the house, his presence calm yet commanding. Midnight black hair fell messily over his forehead, and his sharp, dark eyes reflected the fading sunlight. He looked so much like Adam, but there was something about him, an air of quiet power, the kind that made even the wind hesitate around him. He met her gaze already knowing. "I told the kids we'd be back real soon." His voice was steady, unwavering, then a small, knowing smile. "Let's keep that promise." Freya nodded. She reached for his outstretched hand, and in the blink of an eye, they were gone. Chapter 55, The Power Couple 2. The air turned ice-cold. The clicking sound grew louder, closer, until it echoed from every direction. Then, a shape emerged from the ruins. Larger than the others, taller, stronger. His body was like shifting ink, constantly warping, reshaping, never staying the same for more than a second. But its eyes, jagged slits of burning white, stayed locked on them. A deep, unnatural voice rasped through the silence. "Out!" Celine's grip on her daggers tightened. The smaller creatures halted for a moment, almost like they were waiting. Then the thing moved. Fast. Too fast. 1 second it was standing at the temple ruins. The next it was right in front of them. Celine barely had time to react before a massive, clawed arm came crashing down toward her. She vanished. A split second before impact, her body melted into the shadows at her feet, slipping through the darkness like liquid. The attack smashed into the ground where she stood, shattering the stone in an instant. She reappeared behind the creature, eyes sharp. TCH. Damien clicked his tongue. Fast one, huh? His sword ignited in black flames. Without hesitation, he launched forward, flames trailing behind him like the tail of a meteor. The monster reacted instantly, twisting unnaturally to counter. But Damien was faster. His sword sliced clean through its torso, the searing flames devouring its flesh like wildfire. It shrieked, a horrible, ear-piercing sound, as its body twisted violently, trying to shake off the flames. But Damien was already moving again. He flicked his fingers. Boom! The flames exploded outward, sending black tendrils of the creature flying in every direction. Ha! Not so tough. Damien grinned, resting his blade on his shoulder. Then, the shadows stirred. The monster reformed. Piece by piece, its body stitched itself back together, the burning flesh regenerating as if time had reversed. And this time it didn't stop. It lunged, straight at Damien. A clawed arm shot forward. Damien barely had time to curse before Celine's voice rang out. Got you. His own shadow suddenly came to life, grabbing onto him and pulling him under. Whoosh! In a blink, he sank into the darkness just as the monster's claws ripped through the air where he stood. Damien reemerged a few feet away, blinking in mild irritation. A little warning next time, maybe? Celine smirked. You're welcome. Thomas exhaled. Yeah, save the family bonding, incoming. The smaller creatures moved again. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all charging. Here we go. Damien swung his sword, the black flames roaring to life once more. Celine disappeared, melting into the battlefield. And Thomas, his eyes narrowed. Then, he vanished. Not like Celine, not like Damien. It wasn't teleportation. It wasn't shadow travel. It was something else. 1 second he was standing still. The next, he was everywhere. Dodging, weaving, predicting attacks before they even happened. A claw swung at him, he was already behind it. A tendril lashed toward his back. He stepped to the side, milliseconds before impact. A creature leaped at him. He caught its head midair, twisting violently before slamming it into the ground. Crack. It dissolved instantly. Damien whistled. Show off. Thomas ignored him. He moved again, flowing through the battlefield like a phantom, 1 step ahead of every attack. And then, Celine made her move. Her shadow stretched across the battlefield, rippling like ink. Then, chains burst from the darkness, latching onto the creatures, dragging them back, holding them still. For a split second, everything stopped. Then, burn. Damien swung his sword, and the entire battlefield erupted in black fire. The creatures screeched as the flames swallowed them whole, burning through their bodies faster than they could regenerate. One by one they collapsed, until only the large one remained. It stood still, burning. Then it spoke again. Out. His body rippled, twisting, expanding. Celine's breath hitched. Oh, come on, Damien growled. The thing shifted. Dark tendrils burst from its back, dozens of them, like writhing snakes. His body doubled in size, its aura growing heavier. Thomas clenched his fists. Celine, how long till backup? Should be any second now. A shockwave suddenly tore through the battlefield, shaking the ruins to their core. The creature froze. Celine's eyes widened. They're here. The portal flickered behind them, its eerie glow casting long shadows across the battlefield. Then 2 figures stepped through. Raphael. Freya. Freya's sharp gaze swept over the creatures, her lips curling in disgust. Ugh, what are these things? Then her eyes landed on Thomas. Her smirk was instant. "Oh? Little Thomas is here too." Thomas twitched. His expression darkened like a storm cloud. For the love of God. He was in his mid-20s now. When the hell was she going to stop calling him that? But there were bigger problems. He exhaled sharply, pointing at the stampede of monsters still clawing toward the portal. "As much as I hate that nickname, we really need to stop these things from getting out." Raphael rolled his shoulders, cracking his knuckles as he stepped forward. "Then let's handle it." His grin was sharp, dangerous. "Been a while since we had some fun." Freya took a slow step, then another, her presence shifting. The air around her chilled. Frost spread beneath her feet. Her long black hair shimmered, then ignited into blue-white flames, flickering wildly as the wind howled through the ruins. She tilted her head, eyes gleaming.
Oi.
"How about you pick on someone your own size?" Raphael let out a low chuckle, stretching his arms. "Oh, please, love." His smirk widened. "This'll barely count as a fight." The air vibrated. The creature's tendrils snapped toward them like whips, slicing through the stone ruins like paper. Raphael didn't move. Not yet. He just tilted his head, watching. Then, the tendrils struck. Boom! A deafening shockwave ripped through the battlefield. Dust exploded into the air, swallowing everything in a thick haze. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, Raphael's voice, smooth, unbothered. "That all you got?" The dust cleared, and there he was, standing there, unscathed, one hand in his pocket. The tendrils that should have skewered him? Frozen. Thick layers of ice crawled along them, creeping up the creature's body like a death sentence. Freya smirked, lowering her raised hand. "You were saying?" The monster shrieked, trying to shake off the ice. But Raphael was already moving. He blurred. 1 second he was standing still. The next he was above the creature, fist cocked back. The air howled around his knuckles. Then, boom! His punch connected, and the entire battlefield shook. The impact sent a shockwave so powerful that the ground cracked beneath them. The creature's massive form was launched backward, smashing through ancient pillars like they were nothing. But before it even hit the ground, Freya was there. Her icy flames roared as she raised her hand, fingers snapping. The flames reacted. They surged toward the monster midair, twisting into massive spears of fire and ice. Then, boom! The spears impaled the creature in a brutal explosion of frost and flame. It shrieked, but it wasn't dead. Its burning body convulsed, tendrils lashing wildly, trying to reform. Raphael sighed. "Persistent, huh?" Freya cracked her neck. "Annoying is what it is." The creature lunged again. Chapter 56. Wraith 1. Damien scowled, slicing through another creature as it tried to lunge past him. Is he ever going to stop messing around and actually fight? Celine drove her dagger into a monster's skull, shadow stepping back to the portal as more swarmed in. "None of them are taking this seriously," she muttered, rubbing her forehead. "I can already feel the headache coming." Thomas ducked under a claw, snapping its owner's neck in one fluid motion. "They're enjoying themselves." "Oi! You two have kids to get back to. Remember?" Celine shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Across the battlefield, Freya twirled her fingers, her icy flames crackling to life. We know," she smirked, summoning a hailstorm of spears made of frozen fire. "But let us have a little fun before going back to parental duty." She snapped her fingers, and the spears exploded toward the monster, spiraling like comets. The creature roared, its tendrils whipping up a storm of darkness to shield itself. Too slow. The moment its defenses went up, Raphael appeared. No sound, no warning, just gone. Then, boom! A shockwave ripped through the battlefield as he reappeared, fist already buried inside the creature's skull. The force sent the monster flying, its massive body tearing through stone pillars like paper. Raphael cracked his neck, rolling his shoulders. "Feels good to stretch a bit." Freya sighed dramatically. "Oh, sure. Now you start fighting seriously. The monster twitched, its body regenerating at a terrifying speed. Then, it shrieked. A wave of tendrils burst from its back, each one splitting midair, multiplying, writhing like a swarm of snakes. It lunged, straight for Freya. She smirked. A gust of wind blew past her. Then, whoosh, the entire sky lit up in blue fire. Her flames roared, spiraling into a tornado of icy pyres. Spreading so fast the battlefield itself started freezing over. The tendrils? Incinerated midair. The monster reeled back, shrieking in agony as the flames wrapped around its body, locking it in place. Freya exhaled, stepping forward, heels clicking against the frozen ground. See? This is why you should have stayed down. The creature struggled, but the fire only burned hotter, ice creeping up its limbs, sealing it in an inescapable prison. Then, Raphael appeared beside her, hands in his pockets. He glanced at the trapped monster. You done? She grinned. I guess. Raphael sighed. Then, he disappeared. The world cracked as he broke the sound barrier, moving faster than even the air could react. And then, boom! His fist connected. The monster didn't just explode. It ceased to exist, shattered into frozen embers and dust. Gone. Just like that. Freya let out a low whistle. Nice one, babe. Raphael stretched, nodding toward Celine, Thomas, and Damien. All right, you guys done babysitting the portal? Celine stabbed a final creature, flicking its blood off her dagger. Just about. Damien yawned. Took you long enough. Thomas dusted himself off, glancing at the battlefield. So, are we finally done here, or? Then, the ground rumbled. Their eyes snapped to the portal. The eerie glow pulsed. Something else was coming. Something big. Freya groaned. Oh, for fuck's sake. A slow, mocking clap echoed through the battlefield. Impressive. A smooth voice drawled. The group turned. A man stood near the portal, watching them with amused red eyes. His black hair swayed slightly in the cold wind, but his smirk never wavered. No one, not even our kind, has ever managed to land a killing blow on that beast, he mused, his gaze flicking briefly to Damien. A flicker of recognition. A smirk. You look familiar, he said, tilting his head, almost like looking into a mirror. Then he grinned, sharp and dangerous.
I'm Rafe.
The blade of the monarch of destruction. Before anyone could respond, a deep, rumbling chuckle shook the air. Enough talk, Wraith. A rough, guttural voice growled. They turned, and saw him, a towering brute of a man, muscles like iron, skin covered in jagged scars. A massive horn jutted from his forehead, and his right arm was encased in a monstrous gauntlet that pulsed with raw power. His heavy steps cracked the frozen ground beneath him as he rolled his shoulders. Let's just smash these little worms already, he sneered. Then his glowing eyes locked onto Raphael. Especially that one. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Then, boom! The brute launched forward, the ground shattering beneath his feet. His gauntlet gleamed with a sickly red glow as he swung straight for Raphael's head. Too slow. Raphael tilted his head, just slightly, letting the fist sail past his face, the force alone splitting the air behind him. Then he moved. A blur. A flash of motion. And suddenly, crack! The brute's knee bent the wrong way. He roared in pain, stumbling, but Raphael wasn't done. Not even close. He appeared behind him, hand already on his back, and slammed him face first into the ground. A shockwave erupted. The entire battlefield quaked as the sheer force cratered the ground beneath them. Celine whistled. Damn! Freya leaned on her hip. And I thought I was the dramatic one. But Wraith, he just grinned. Oh? Is that all? The air shifted. Dangerous. Fast. Raphael turned, just in time to see Wraith already inside his guard. A blade, black as void, humming with unnatural energy, was inches from his throat. Raphael smirked. Then, Clang. The blade stopped, dead in the air. Wraith blinked. A finger. Raphael had stopped it with one damn finger. Silence. Then, Raphael exhaled. Ha! That all you got? And before Wraith could react, bang! A knee to the gut. Wraith's body folded. Spit flew from his mouth as he vanished. Sent flying so fast he was just a blur against the sky. Freya laughed. Well, he's gone. But Raphael didn't turn. Because, crack, the ground split. The brute, he was already up. Steam rose from his body as his bones snapped back into place. His gauntlet howled with energy, pulsing like a second heartbeat. His grin, even wider. Not bad, he rumbled. Then he slammed his fist into the ground. And the world collapsed. The ground erupted into a storm of jagged stone and black energy. A wave of destruction tore through the battlefield, ripping toward the portal. Thomas cursed. Selene! On it! She vanished, shadow step, and reappeared right at the edge of the blast zone. Her hands moved. Fast! Dark tendrils shot from the shadows, weaving through the wreckage, stopping the destruction just before it reached the portal. She exhaled. That was close. But a gust of wind, and Raphael was already in front of the brute again. This time, no words, just fists. The battle truly began. Chapter 57, Wraith 2. The battlefield exploded with motion. Raphael and the brute moved, no, vanished, only to reappear mid-air, fists colliding with the force of a meteor strike. A deafening boom tore through the sky, shockwaves rippling outward, flattening what little remained of the ground beneath them. The brute snarled, muscles bulging as he swung again, his monstrous gauntlet leaving streaks of black lightning in its wake. Raphael dodged, barely. A strand of his hair drifted loose from the sheer force. Then, bang! Raphael's elbow buried itself into the brute's ribs. Crack! Something broke. But the brute only grinned, grabbing Raphael by the arm, and slamming him straight into the ground. A crater formed on impact. The earth split apart, sending debris and shockwaves in every direction. Selene and Thomas barely managed to leap back in time. Freya, however, she whistled. That looked painful. The dust settled. Raphael lay in the pit, motionless. The brute chuckled, rolling his shoulders. Ha! That all you got, golden boy? Then, a sound. A low, dangerous exhale. The brute froze. Something was off. The air grew heavy, oppressive. Freya's smirk faltered. Wait! The dust shifted, and Raphael stood up.
No scratches.
No damage. Not even a speck of dirt on him. His golden eyes flickered upward, locked onto the brute. And then, he disappeared. Boom! Before the brute could react, a fist slammed into his stomach. His entire body folded. Eyes bulged. The next second, bang! The brute launched backward like a bullet, ripping through the battlefield, skipping across the ground like a stone over water before crashing through a mountain in the distance. Silence. Selene blinked. Jesus. Freya grinned. Now that's more like it. But Raphael, he didn't move. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, gaze still locked in the brute's direction. Then, boom! The mountain exploded. The brute emerged, clothes torn, blood dripping from his forehead. And yet, he was laughing. Finally, he growled, wiping his mouth. A real fight. The black energy around his gauntlet flared, twisting and writhing like a living thing. The ground beneath him crumbled just from the pressure alone. Then, he charged, and Raphael met him halfway. No words.
No hesitaschen.
Just fists. They clashed again. Shockwaves tearing through the battlefield, splitting the sky open. Selene and Thomas ducked for cover. Freya, on the other hand, she crossed her arms, grinning. Man, I love this man. Wait, where's Damien? Thomas asked, eyes darting around. Then, they turned, and froze. Damien stood there, no, hung there, his own sword buried deep in his gut. And behind him, Wraith, smirking, one hand gripping Damien's weapon, the other casually resting in his head. Celine's breath hitched. Her mind went blank. For a moment, just a second, everything around her stopped. Then, crack, a pulse of darkness erupted from her. The very shadows twisted, writhing like living things. The battlefield darkened, the air turning ice-cold. Her vision blurred. Nothing else mattered. Just him. Just Wraith. Then, she launched forward, black tendrils whipping around her like a storm. Whoosh! Her dagger flashed, aimed straight for Wraith's throat. But he vanished. A blur. Then, bam! Pain. Celine gasped as a fist slammed into her stomach. So fast, so brutal. She didn't even see it coming. Her body folded. Air ripped from her lungs. Then, bang! She crashed into the ground, dirt and stone exploding around her. Thomas took a step forward. Celine! Freya held him back. Don't! Celine coughed, blood dripping down her lip. Her body screamed in pain, but she didn't care. Her shadows twitched, and she vanished. Shum! She reappeared behind Wraith, blade swinging. Clang! Metal met metal, sparks flying. But her arms shook. Wraith hadn't even turned around. He stopped her attack with one hand, fingers barely gripping her dagger. Mocking, smirking. Sloppy, he mused. Then, he twisted, a knee straight to her ribs. Crack! Something snapped. Celine choked on a scream. Then boom! She was airborne. Again her body slamming into a ruined wall. Rubble crashed down around her. She struggled to breathe. Her vision blurred. But she pushed herself up. Slow, staggering. Wraith sighed, rolling his shoulders. You're persistent. I'll give you that. Celine spat blood, shadows writhing around her like a living beast. Then, she attacked again. Faster. More violent. A storm of blades, tendrils, teleportation. Shum. Clang. Whoosh. She struck from every angle, her speed inhuman. But Wraith, he didn't move. Didn't need to. Every single attack he blocked. Dodged. Effortless. Like he wasn't even trying. And then, he got bored. His fingers twitched. And Celine's own shadow grabbed her ankle. Her eyes widened. Yank. She hit the ground hard. Before she could even react. Bang! A boot straight to her chest. The impact sent her skidding across the battlefield, carving a trench in the dirt. She stopped. Didn't move. Silence. Wraith exhaled, dusting off his hands. TCH. You're too emotional. He turned his gaze toward Damien, still impaled. Celine's breath hitched. Her fingers twitched. Shadows rippled. But she couldn't move. She lost. And Wraith knew it. He smiled. Then, he pulled the sword out and let Damien's body drop. Thud. Damien's body hit the ground. Still. Lifeless. Celine's breath came sharp, ragged. She wanted to scream, but the sound caught in her throat. Wraith just stood there, twirling Damien's blood-soaked sword between his fingers like it was some kind of toy. Then, he looked at her, mocking, smirking. You're taking this pretty hard. Celine twitched. Shadows writhed around her, curling up like the tendrils of a beast about to lunge. Her fingers dug into the dirt, her whole body trembling. Not with pain, but with something far worse. Something that made the very air vibrate. Wraith raised an eyebrow. Then, Celine snapped. Boom! A wave of darkness erupted from her. The battlefield warped, sky turning pitch black, the ground cracking under an unseen weight. Shadows stretched unnaturally, consuming everything in their path. Celine vanished. Whoosh. Then, shing. A streak of black light, her dagger cutting straight for Wraith's neck. But, clang. His blade met hers. One-handed. Casual. Celine gritted her teeth, then disappeared again. Whoosh. She reappeared behind him, a dagger to his spine. But Wraith, he didn't turn. Didn't even look. His shadow moved instead. A pitch-black limb burst from the ground, grabbing Celine's wrist mid-swing. Her eyes widened. Then, crack, twisted. Selene screamed, her arm bending the wrong way. Then, a boot. Bang! Right to her face. Her body whipped through the air, flipping end over end before she slammed into the dirt, rolling like a rag doll. Dust choked the air. Thomas took a step forward, panic in his eyes. Selene! Freya grabbed him, eyes locked on the battlefield. Shut up and watch. The dust cleared. Selene lay in a heap. She should have stayed down. But she didn't. Shum. Her own shadow dragged her up, like it refused to let her rest. Her breaths were shallow. Blood trickled from her mouth. But she still glared at Wraith. Still tried to stand. Wraith exhaled. Really? Then, he was gone. Selene's instincts screamed. But too late. Bang! A fist to her stomach. Crack. Her ribs shattered. She gasped. But another blow came. Bang! 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 Each hit sent her flying. Each one more brutal than the last. Her vision blurred. She felt herself lift into the air. Then, boom! Wraith hammered her into the ground. The earth split apart. A deep crater forming beneath her. Silence. Selene didn't move. Didn't even breathe. Hey, face me. Chapter 58. Wraith versus Freya. Whoosh. Freya moved. No words.
No hesitación.
Just a burning rage that set the air on fire. She walked straight to Selene's broken body, her face unreadable. When she knelt beside her, white flames flickered to life at her fingertips, gentle yet absolute. The second they touched Selene's wounds, they roared to life, swallowing her whole. The battlefield trembled. And then, Selene gasped. Her shattered ribs snapped back into place. Blood reversed course, vanishing into her skin. Strength flooded her limbs, her body fixing itself in seconds. Selene blinked, dazed. But Freya? She didn't even look at her. She just stood up, slow, deliberate, her crimson eyes locked on Wraith. Still silent. Then, she moved. Boom! The ground shattered beneath her as she vanished. And then, Wraith's head jerked sideways as a fist buried itself in his face. Bang! He crashed backward, skipping across the battlefield like a stone over water, until he slammed into a rock formation, turning it into dust. Silence. Selene's eyes widened. Thomas exhaled. Holy sh. Whoosh. Wraith reappeared, blood dripping from his lip. His head tilted, testing his jaw. Then, he grinned. Oh, he murmured, wiping his mouth. Now we're talking. Shum. Black flames erupted around him, twisting, writhing, consuming the very air. The ground beneath his feet sank just from the pressure alone. Freya? She didn't move, didn't flinch. Then, they both disappeared. Boom! They reappeared mid-air, fists clashing, shockwaves splitting the clouds apart. Wraith swung a savage right hook. Freya leaned back, the punch grazing her nose, then countered. Bam! Her elbow crashed into his ribs, sending him twisting through the sky. But before he could recover, she was already there. A knee to his spine, bang. A hammer fist to his gut, boom. Each hit folded him. Each hit shook the battlefield. Wraith snarled, shadows twisting, lashing out like whips. But Freya, she tore through them. She blitzed forward, spinning, heels slicing through the air. Crack! Wraith's body snapped sideways, crashing into the ground so hard the earth ruptured. Then, silence. Freya hovered above, arms still crossed, unimpressed. Dust and rubble settled. Nothing. Then, a laugh. Low, amused. Wraith stood up. Blood dripped down his temple. His clothes were torn. His body was covered in bruises. But he was grinning. You're strong, he admitted, rolling his shoulders. Stronger than I thought. His eyes burned. But the shadows swallowed him whole. And then, Freya's instincts screamed. Whoosh! Wraith appeared behind her. A blade, black as night, aimed straight for her spine. But she didn't turn. didn't even look. Her hand snapped backward and caught the blade.
Barehanded.
Silence. Wraith blinked. What? Foem. White flames erupted from her palm. The sword melted. Wraith snarled, jerking back. But Freya was faster. Boom! A flaming fist slammed into his gut, so hard his feet left the ground. His breath hitched. Then, Freya grabbed his collar, yanked him forward, and headbutted him. Crack. The shockwave sent lightning tearing through the clouds. Wraith's body whipped backward, skidding across the battlefield, a trench forming in his wake. Freya landed, cracking her knuckles. Done playing yet? She asked. Wraith coughed, staggering to his feet, his grin wider than ever. Then, his shadows flared. His aura doubled. The air shook, and with a wild, feral grin, he charged. And Freya met him halfway. No words.
No hesitaschen.
Just fists. Boom! They clashed again. Fist to fist. Fire to shadow. Heat to void. The sky split. The ground quaked. The battlefield turned into a war zone of raw destruction. Whoosh! Freya weaved through Wraith's strikes like smoke, her movements sharp, effortless. His shadows lashed out, whips of black death. But the moment they touched her, they froze. Ice crawled up the darkness, twisting, cracking, shattering. Wraith snarled. He surged forward, a blur of speed, blade forming in his grip. A wide slash aimed straight for Freya's throat. But, whoom! A wall of fire exploded between them, hotter than the sun, cold as the grave. Cryofire. Blue and white flames danced around Freya, flickering like ghosts, the air around her freezing even as it burned. Wraith's blade stopped mid-swing, encased in ice. His eyes widened. Freya didn't let him think. Bam! A spinning kick to his ribs. Crack. His body folded. Boom! He crashed into the ground, ice spreading from the impact, freezing the earth solid. But, whoosh! The ice shattered. Wraith was already gone. Freya's instincts screamed. She turned. Too late. Slash! A shadow claw raked across her side, black energy searing through her skin. She gritted her teeth, barely flinching. Wraith was on her in an instant. Bang! A punch to the stomach. Boom! An uppercut to the chin. Shum! A roundhouse kick to the ribs. Freya skidded back, boots digging into the ground. Wraith grinned, cocky. That all you got? He taunted, twirling his blade. Freya exhaled. Her breath came out misty, cold, deadly. Then, she moved. Whoosh! Foem. Her flames erupted. A swirling storm of ice and fire. The ground beneath her flash froze, but the air burned. Wraith blinked, and suddenly, she was in his face. Bam! A knee to the gut. He choked. Bang! A flaming fist to the jaw. He spun. Crack! An axe kick to the back of the head, sending him straight into the dirt. Boom! The battlefield shattered. Dust and smoke rose. The earth trembled. Silence. Freya stood over the crater, flames still licking at her fingertips. Her breath came slow, controlled. Her eyes locked on the rubble below. Then, a chuckle. Low, rough. Wraith stood up, bruised, bloody, barely breathing, and grinning. Freya tilted her head. TCH. Annoying. Then, Wraith raised his hand. The sky turned black. The air got heavy, and the battlefield, it sank. Freya exhaled. Her flames surged, and just like that, they vanished. Back to Raphael. Boom! The brute's body tore through rock. Debris exploded in every direction as he skidded across the battlefield, plowing through anything in his way. Then whoosh! Raphael appeared above him, mid-air, his coat billowing behind him. His golden eyes flickered, cold. His fists clenched. And then, bang! A hammer fist straight to the brute's spine. The ground cratered. The impact shook the battlefield. Dust and ice shot up like a geyser. But Raphael didn't stop. Before the brute could even think about getting up, bam! A knee to the ribs. Crack! A backhand to the skull. Boom! A straight punch to the gut, burying him deeper into the ground. No words. No wasted movement. Just precise, merciless blows. The brute twitched, trying to rise. Whoosh! Raphael blurred. Then, bang! A fist straight to the face. The brute's head snapped back. Blood spraying. Bam! 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 Raphael didn't let up. Each strike was faster, harder, sharper. His fists tore through the air, the sheer force splitting the ground with every hit. The brute tried to lift his arms, block, counter, something. Crack. A vicious elbow smashed into his jaw. His body lurched. Foem. Raphael vanished. The brute barely had time to react before. Boom! A flying kick to the chest. The brute's body was sent rocketing backward. Straight toward Freya and Wraith. Whoosh! Freya and Wraith collided midair, their fists meeting in an explosion of white flames and black shadows. The shockwave split the sky. And then, the brute's body came flying toward them. Freya barely turned her head. Whoosh! Raphael appeared right beside her. Freya blinked. Took you long enough. Raphael exhaled, rolling his shoulders. TCH. Cleaning up trash. The brute, still airborne, was inches away from Wraith. Wraith's eyes narrowed. Slash. A blade of darkness formed instantly in his hand. Whoosh. He sliced. But, crack. Raphael's fist crashed into his face. Boom. Wraith plummeted. The brute followed, both of them smashing into the battlefield below. Raphael landed smoothly beside Freya. She side-eyed him. You got him. Raphael cracked his knuckles. Obviously. Freya smirked. Then, Chapter 59, One with the Universe. Whoosh! Freya and Raphael landed side by side, the battlefield trembling beneath them. Dust and smoke swirled around the massive crater where Wraith and the brute had crashed. Silence. Then, a deep, guttural growl. The brute's massive frame twitched. Muscles spasmed. Bones cracked back into place. His breathing was ragged, but the monster wasn't done yet. Wraith was worse. Blood dripped from his mouth. His arm hung limp, his clothes in shreds. But his eyes, they still burned. Freya sighed. TCH. Annoying. Raphael rolled his shoulders, golden eyes locked on the brute. I'll handle this one. Freya didn't argue. Whoosh. She disappeared. Wraith barely had time to blink before. Boom. Freya's knee slammed into his gut. His body folded. Crack. An elbow smashed into his jaw, sending him reeling. But before he could even think about recovering, bam! A roundhouse kick to the ribs. Wraith spat blood as he flew backward, smashing into a boulder. Freya landed lightly, dusting off her hands. You done yet? Wraith staggered to his feet. His breath was shaky. His shadows flickered, unstable. Then he grinned. Blood smeared his teeth. His entire body was screaming in pain. But he grinned. Not bad, he coughed. His voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. His legs wobbled, but he forced himself to stand tall. But, I'm not dying here. Freya's eyes narrowed. Whoosh! She appeared right in front of him. Before he could react. Bang! A fist to the throat. His breath hitched. Boom! A knee to the ribs. His bones cracked. Shum! Freya's hands ignited. Blue and white flames twisted around her fingers. Colder than ice. Hotter than hell. Wraith's eyes widened. Wait! Foem. She pressed her palm against his chest. And the flames swallowed him. Wraith's scream never came. The second the fire touched his skin, he was gone. Not burned. Not vaporized. Just erased. Like he never existed. Freya lowered her hand. Silence. She exhaled, eyes flicking to Raphael. Raphael stood over the brute's barely breathing body. His golden eyes void of emotion. The monster twitched. His fingers clawed at the dirt, trying, desperate, to rise. Raphael didn't let him. Crack. His boot slammed down on the brute's spine, pinning him in place. The brute wheezed. His monstrous body convulsed. but he had no strength left. Raphael crouched, his voice calm. You don't get to exist anymore. The brute gurgled, tried to speak. But Raphael was already done. Whoosh! His hand shot forward, straight through the brute's chest. Silence. The brute's body twitched. Then, it stopped. No dramatic last words.
No struggle.
Just silence. Raphael yanked his hand back, flicking off the blood. The brute's body crumbled, lifeless. He straightened, turning to Freya. Finished. Freya cracked her neck. Obviously, the battlefield was quiet now. No more enemies. No more interruptions. Just the two of them standing amidst the wreckage. Freya stretched. So, drinks. Raphael exhaled. Fine. Then, whoosh, a shadow loomed over the battlefield. The air turned thick, heavy, suffocating. Everyone froze. A figure stepped forward. Massive, human in shape, but something was off. He wasn't bulky like the brute, but he radiated power, raw, terrifying power. His void black eyes burned. His presence alone made the ground tremble. Then, he smirked. You think this is over? His voice was deep, almost amused. You have no idea what's coming. His aura exploded, boom. The entire battlefield shook. I'm going to kill you, he continued, stepping forward. Then I'll walk through that portal and wipe out everything in the world beyond. His grin widened. Let me show you why they call me the Monarch of Destruction. Silence. Raphael exhaled. His instincts screamed at him. This wasn't just another fight. This was going to get messy. His eyes flickered to Freya, then Thomas, then Selene, who was clutching her brother's lifeless body, her face pale. Listen, Raphael muttered low. If this turns bad, get out. Shut that portal. Tell the kids I love them, and that I'm coming back. Freya's expression darkened. We're not leaving anyone behind. The monarch chuckled. Cute, he mocked. But I'm not like those weaklings you just fought. Then, he moved. Fast. Boom. Raphael met him head-on. Fists clashed. Shockwaves exploded outward, splitting the ground. Then, whoosh, Raphael was sent flying, his body crashing through rubble, flipping midair before slamming into the dirt. Silence. The monarch cracked his knuckles, eyes gleaming. Pathetic, he muttered. Then, Freya's flames roared to life, and she moved. Whoom. Freya's flames surged, blue and white embers twisting around her like a raging storm. The ground beneath her cracked, melting under the sheer heat. The monarch barely raised an eyebrow before. Whoosh, she was gone. Then, boom, a blazing fist crashed into his ribs. His body barely shifted. Freya clicked her tongue. Swoosh, she twisted midair, spinning into a kick. Bam, a direct hit to his jaw. His head snapped to the side. Then, he turned back, completely unfazed. Freya's eyes narrowed. TCH. Great. Before she could react. Boom. His palm slammed into her stomach. The force insane. She blasted backward like a bullet, slamming through boulders, tearing through the battlefield. Crash. She skidded to a stop, coughing up blood. Her ribs? Definitely cracked. The monarch sighed. That it? His foot lifted. Then, bang! A golden blur crashed into him from the side. Raphael. His fist, glowing with raw energy, dug into the monarch's ribs, sending shockwaves rippling through the air. But the monarch didn't budge. Instead, he grinned. Boom! His aura exploded. A shockwave erased the ground around him. Raphael barely had time to react before. Wham! A knee to the gut. His body bent. Air shot from his lungs. Bam! An elbow crashed into his back, slamming him into the dirt. Raphael coughed, dust clouding around him. The monarch stepped back, rolling his shoulders. Disappointing. Then, a burning light. Freya's flames shot toward him like a tidal wave, swallowing the entire battlefield. The heat unreal. The sky itself seemed to melt. But the flames parted. The monarch stepped forward, completely unharmed. His black eyes gleamed with something close to amusement. Then, faster than either of them could react, he was gone. Whoosh! Freya barely turned before. Boom! A fist slammed into her side. Her world flipped. The sky gone. The ground gone. All she knew was pain. She crashed into the ruins, her body bouncing off the rubble before slamming into a wall. Raphael grit his teeth. His vision swam. He forced himself to move, but... Shum! The monarch was already there. A foot on his back. Pinned. Raphael struggled, but it was useless. The monarch leaned down. Any last words? Raphael spat blood, glaring up. Yeah, he coughed. One with the universe. Chapter 60. The Truth Too. Whoosh. The air twisted. The sky cracked. A blinding golden light erupted from Raphael's body. The ground beneath him shattered like glass, sending chunks of stone flying in all directions. His golden eyes burned like miniature suns as an overwhelming force surged through him. The monarch flinched. For the first time, he hesitated. Then, boom! A golden explosion. The monarch's foot was blasted off Raphael's back. He staggered, arms raised to shield himself from the light. But Raphael wasn't stopping. Whoosh! He vanished. A golden blur. Then, bang! A fist, glowing like a star, collided with the monarch's face. His head snapped back. Before he could recover, boom! A second punch. A shockwave tore through the battlefield, splitting the ground beneath them. Then, bam! A roundhouse kick to the ribs. The monarch flew. His massive body crashed through crumbling ruins, bouncing off the ground like a ragdoll before smashing into a boulder. Silence. Raphael exhaled. His body was floating, literally hovering above the battlefield, golden energy spiraling around him. His skin shimmered like molten gold. His presence alone warped the air, bending reality itself. His eyes no longer human. The monarch groaned, pushing himself up from the rubble. His hand wiped the blood from his lips. Then he smirked. Heh! Now we're talking. Whoosh! The ground exploded beneath him as he shot forward like a missile. Raphael met him mid-air. Bang! Their fists collided. The sky itself seemed to break. A massive shockwave rippled outward, tearing through the clouds. The ground below cracked and split apart. Then boom! The battle resumed. Fists blurred. Flashes of gold and black clashed like streaks of lightning. Every hit sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. Boom! 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 Neither backed down. Neither slowed. Then, swoosh! A golden streak. Raphael twisted mid-air, his foot swinging in a perfect arc. Crack! A brutal kick to the monarch's jaw. His head snapped back. Bam! Another hit. A glowing fist buried itself into his ribs. Boom! The monarch was sent flying, crashing through stone, dirt, and debris, skidding across the battlefield like a meteor. But before he even stopped, whoosh! Raphael was already there. A golden glow in his palm. The monarch barely raised his arms. Then, foam! A golden blast erased the landscape. A massive explosion swallowed the battlefield, blinding light flooding everything in sight. For a moment, nothing, just pure silence. Then, the dust settled. Raphael stood, panting slightly. His golden aura flickered, unstable. The air around him distorted, struggling to contain the sheer energy radiating from his body. Then movement. The monarch. His body was burned, bruised. His black armor cracked. Blood dripped from his lips. Yet, he was still standing, still smiling. Hey! He wiped his mouth, looking down at the blood on his fingers. I felt that one. Then his black eyes burned. You really think you can kill me? Whoosh! He vanished. Bang! A fist buried itself into Raphael's gut. His breath hitched. His body bent. Then, boom! A second hit straight to the ribs. Crack! Something broke. Raphael's vision blurred. Before he could react, wham! Palm to the chest. His body rocketed backward, crashing into the ruins, tearing through stone like wet paper. Dust exploded. The air trembled. The monarch exhaled. His black aura surged, rising like a storm. You put up a good fight. His voice was calm, amused. But then, whoosh.
Un second aura érupted.
But it wasn't Raphael. It was, boom. Blue and white flames roared to life. The battlefield turned white-hot. The air itself screamed. The monarch's smirk faded. Slowly he turned. And there, standing in the middle of the wreckage, Freya, her eyes glowing like frozen stars, her flames burning hotter than ever before. A storm of fire twisted around her, blue embers dancing in the wind. She cracked her neck. TCH. My turn. Then, whoosh. She moved. Whoosh. Freya disappeared. A streak of blue and white shot across the battlefield, faster than the eye could follow. The monarch barely had time to react. Bang! A fist wreathed in blazing white flames crashed into his chest. The impact sent a shockwave ripping through the air, ice instantly forming on his armor. His feet dug into the ground as he skidded backward, leaving a deep trench in his wake. But Freya wasn't done. Whoosh! She was already behind him. Boom! A knee to the ribs. His body jerked violently to the side. Then, wham! An axe kick from above. Direct hit. The ground erupted as the monarch was slammed into the dirt, a crater forming beneath him. Freya hovered above, her body wreathed in white-blue fire, steam rising from her hands. Her glowing eyes locked onto him, cold and sharp. The monarch grunted, rising to his feet. His armor, already cracked from Raphael's attacks, was now frosted over, ice creeping along the edges. He exhaled, his breath visible in the sudden chill. Then he smirked. Not bad. Freya tilted her head. I'm not even warmed up. She clenched her fist. Fwum! A wave of freezing fire exploded outward. The air screamed as everything in its path, stone, dirt, even the lingering golden embers from Raphael's energy, was instantly frozen over, encased in shimmering ice. The monarch vanished. Whoosh! Then, bang! His fist shot toward her. But Freya was gone before it landed. So whoosh! She reappeared mid-air. Hand raised. Then, foam! A massive spear of blue fire shot downward. The monarch barely dodged, the attack missing by inches. Boom! The moment it hit the ground, an explosion of ice erupted, spikes of frozen fire bursting in all directions. The monarch leaped back, flipping mid-air. But, whoosh! Freya was already there. Her foot, wreathed in white flames, swung toward his head. Bam! Direct hit. His body twisted, spinning from the sheer force. Then, wham! A second kick straight to the gut. Boom! The monarch blasted through a ruined tower, crashing through stone and debris. Dust exploded into the air. Freya landed lightly on the ground, rolling her shoulders. Her flames burned hotter, the ice around her crackling from the sheer intensity of her power. Then, whoosh! The monarch emerged from the rubble, bruised, bloodied, but smiling. Heh, you're fast, he said, rolling his neck. But let's see how long you can keep that up. Then, boom! A surge of black energy exploded from his body. The air shook. Freya narrowed her eyes. Whoosh! The monarch vanished. Then, bang! A fist to the gut. Freya coughed, her body bending from the impact. Wham! A backhand sent her flying. She twisted mid-air, regaining control. Foam! A wall of white fire erupted behind her, stopping her momentum. She landed, skidding back slightly, one knee bent. The monarch cracked his knuckles. Not bad, he said. But, thud, something hit the ground behind Freya. She turned. Raphael, on one knee, breathing heavily, his golden glow flickering, his skin no longer shimmering, his energy unstable. Freya's eyes widened. The monarch chuckled. Ah, I see now. He wiped blood from his lip, grinning. You're the chosen champion of your universe, aren't you? His voice was mocking, just like the one who sent me here. He stepped forward. But the downside? His smirk widened. You're outside your universe. He spread his arms. You can't muster your full strength here. His black eyes burned. Too bad for you. A fractured goodbye. Raphael coughed, his body trembling. His golden aura flickered, unstable, fading. He could barely stand, but he forced himself to smile. Freya! His voice was weak, barely a whisper. She turned to him, her glowing blue eyes filled with sorrow. She already knew what he was about to say.
I'm staying.
Freya clenched her fists, shaking her head. Tears rolled down her cheeks.
No.
You can't. I won't leave you here. Raphael exhaled, his smile never fading. You have to. For the kids. Freya bit her lip. Her heart ached. Every part of her wanted to fight, to stand by him until the end. But deep down, she knew he was right. Her hands trembled as she threw herself forward, wrapping her arms around him. I'll come back, she whispered, her voice breaking. I promise. I'll come back for you. Raphael leaned into the embrace, his hand weakly resting on her back. I know. Freya pulled away, wiping her tears as she turned to Thomas and Celine. Without another word, she helped Celine up, her grip firm but gentle. Together, they made their way toward the portal, a swirling rift of light and energy, the only way out of this godforsaken space. But it was never going to be that easy. A low chuckle echoed. Leaving so soon? The air shifted. The ground shook. The monarch raised his hand. Gravity crushed down, an invisible force pinning them all in place. The air turned thick, suffocating. Rocks lifted from the ground, floating like weightless debris in the crushing force of his power. Freya's body froze. She could barely move. But then, boom! Raphael's fist slammed into the monarch's face. The gravitational force shattered in an instant. The monarch's head snapped to the side, his smirk vanishing. Slowly, he turned back, cracking his neck. Still got some fight left in you, huh? Raphael wobbled, barely keeping himself upright. He was running on fumes now, but he would not let this bastard take another step forward. Go! He yelled at Freya. Now! Freya gritted her teeth, torn. Her instincts screamed at her to run, to obey, to get out of here for her kids. She didn't look back. She grabbed Celine's hand and pushed forward. Thomas followed, his expression tense. They were almost at the portal, almost free. But then, whoosh, the monarch vanished. In the blink of an eye, he was standing right in front of the portal. Celine gasped. Thomas immediately stepped in front of her, raising his fist. The monarch exhaled, his black eyes glowing with amusement. You really thought I'd let you leave? Then, boom! Raphael tackled him. The two of them crashed into the ground, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Raphael's grip tightened around the monarch's throat, his golden aura flaring. You're not going anywhere. The monarch grunted, annoyance flashing across his face. You really think you can hold me back forever? And he was right. Raphael could barely stand, let alone overpower him. The monarch pushed forward, dragging Raphael with him. Inches. They were inches away from the portal now. Freya turned, her eyes widening. Raphael was losing. Her heart pounded. Her hands clenched into fists. Then, she made a decision. Freya whirled toward Thomas. Go. Take care of the kids for me, Thomas. Thomas's eyes widened. What? Wait! But Freya was already moving. Whoosh! Blue flames exploded around her as she rocketed back toward the battlefield. Raphael's vision blurred. He was barely conscious, barely holding on, until he felt a sudden wave of cold. Then, boom! A massive wave of blue and white fire crashed into the monarch's side, sending him flying. Freya landed beside Raphael, her icy flames swirling around her. She cracked her knuckles, her expression cold and fierce. You're not touching that portal. The monarch sat up from the rubble, his expression darkening. Then he grinned. Heh! He wiped the blood from his mouth. Fine then, let's play. And the battle was far from over. Near the portal, Thomas clenched his jaw. We're out of time. Celine hesitated. But Thomas grabbed her hand and pulled. Whoosh! They stepped through the portal, and Thomas turned back. His eyes met Freya's for the last time. Then he closed it. The portal snapped shut, and Raphael and Freya were trapped.